Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Thursday morning Due edition of the Due Dissidents podcast. My name is Keaton Weiss. We're joined live from Washington, D.C. by Russell Dobular.
It's a rainy one out there, Keaton.
Russell is our on-the-road correspondent for the next few shows here. It's rainy down there. It's rainy up here, too.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
It may be raining on Sunday.
Is that right?
On Sunday, yeah. 55% chance they're saying that.
Oh, man.
The only day it's not forecast to rain is the Rage Against the War Machine Day on Saturday.
Oh, wow. So clear skies for you.
Yep. Hopefully.
There you go.
We will see.
Yeah. Julian Assange, our first story of the day, is about Julian Assange, who's speaking out for the first time since being released. His brother apparently is speaking at Rage Against War.
Is he?
Well, Gabriel Shipton, that's his brother, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
All right,
cool.
So
that'll be cool.
All right, yeah. All right. So I'll bring the good Coke.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. There you have it.
Want to get in good with them.
That's right. Always got to be. What was I supposed to do? I got rid of something on the screen.
The chili.
Yeah, Russell has chili. You tweeted something out. You tweeted about a Danish prison, so it bumped it down the line. But yeah, so here's a sneak peek of what Russ has been up to in D.C. So far since arriving. There you go.
Yeah. So this place is like legendary. It's been there since 1958. So I did the thing, man. This was like as much calories as I have in 2 days. I had the half smoke, chili cheese fries, and a chocolate shake. Literally, that's probably as many calories I consume in 2 days. And
I like that when you tweeted out when in DC, and whoever Clydeside Express is, this is very clever. It says when in Glasgow. Oh,
yeah.
Great.
He's funny. He's
Yeah,
funny.
He's amazing.
Yeah. Oh my God. But yeah, no, it was very good. It was good. As the only time I'm going to indulge in that while I'm here, probably. But yeah, over the next couple days, I'm just going to be working on my speech because I'm going to be speaking at Rage. I figure I'll finish that today, and then tomorrow I would like to go to the American Museum. But last night, after eating all of that, I said, okay, so how far is the White House? Because I need to walk this off. So it was like 1.5 miles. So I did take a walk to the White House. Which it's weird. You just kind of you go there in the middle of the night on a weekday, and you just have people milling around outside. It's very strange. It's a very strange atmosphere. And I got to say, DC, it's pretty economically depressed. Like if the seat of power is a reflection of the society, then America is the third world, because here you have like the Generalissimo's palace here, the White House, and
Right.
people milling around outside to take pictures. And you just go a couple blocks away, everything's filthy. Yeah, a lot of poverty. It's pretty rough. It's rough. It has that reputation, but I've never really walked the streets of DC. Like I've never really walked around DC beyond like the major sites, and then you don't really see DC that way. That is one of the things I like about staying at Airbnbs because they're usually set in a neighborhood, like a real
Right.
neighborhood where people actually live on like a Best Western or something. It's going to be usually in a more tourist area. Yeah, no, it's rough here, man. Like you can see, it's pretty impoverished. So it's like the third world. It's like a third world country. You got very rich, very upscale people celebrating their wealth and power, and it's literally right next to just crushing poverty.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was in DC last, it was to build food tours, and so you only go when you do that. You go to like the posh, hipster, cute areas, right? So,
Right, right,
like I went to Georgetown. That's where we built our tours, and
right, right.
Georgetown is a beautiful neighborhood, extremely wealthy. And then we tried building one in DuPont Circle, but it wasn't conducive to a walking tour, and that's like an upscale area too. So I've only been to I haven't really seen I didn't even see the White House when I was there. I didn't do any sightseeing. Went in, did my shit, left.
Yeah, when you're walking to the White House, you do pass through this nice neighborhood. I forget the name of the circle, but it was when it was first built. It was really the place for black people in Washington. But yeah, you have these beautiful Victorian townhouses on the way there. So there is like that nice neighborhood right off like was that's Lafayette Circle right
Yeah,
across
yeah, I
from the
think
White
so.
House.
Yeah, I think so.
And so to the north of that, I think it's Taylor Circle. Taylor Circle, I think it was called. And you have this, very, very nice. I think L'Enfant actually designed it. So yeah, like on the way I passed through that, but then a couple blocks off that, it's very nasty, and you could see that the city is not putting a lot of money into sanitation. It's like New York used to be in a lot of ways. Like I'm not really used to it anymore because Giuliani made the sanitation run on time,
Right,
and they never really lapsed back to the pre-Giuliani New York where you just have garbage all over the street.
right.
But yeah, you see that here quite a lot.
All right, well, we're gonna get started. How's my audio, chat? Am I too loud? I adjusted my mic a little bit from last show. I thought it was a little too low last show. So
It's a little jacked up, but I can't tell what the balance is with mine.
yeah, because
It's
last
kind
time
of
it
it's
was a
kind
little
of
low, so I
it's
boosted it a little bit.
relative.
So we'll see. If the chat complains, I'll turn it down. Otherwise, we're gonna do it live, folks.
Fuck it.
Our friend Max Blumenthal is going to be joining us in progress to talk about the Occupy Peace and Freedom rally in Kingston, New York, in a short while. But let's get started. So there is some pretty big news.
It's relative.
What the hell's that?
If the check
That's
What was
that
it?
is,
down. Otherwise, we're gonna do it live.
that's you.
Yeah. What are you watching us on the phone?
I want to see how my hair looks. No, I can't see the chat because
Oh,
of this setup.
see, I was here. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right. Very good. I was like, that guy sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Alrighty, everybody. So we are going to get started. Some pretty big news on the Julian Assange front. Julian Assange is set to speak out for the first time since being released from Belmarsh prison. So Kevin Gostola, who has been following every development of this case for years now, Assange to testify on political imprisonment for engaging in journalism. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange will travel to Strasbourg, France, and testify before the Council of Europe's Committee on Legal Affairs and Human Rights on October 1st, so very soon. It will be his first public testimony since he was arrested and expelled from Ecuador's London embassy in 2019. The committee is part of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, an international body that is made up of parliamentarians from each European Union member state. Assange will contribute testimony on the political nature of the United States government's prosecution against him, which ended in a plea agreement in June. Consideration of Assange's political imprisonment is part of a wider examination by the Assembly of the increased threats to journalists and whistleblowers in Europe, and it was initiated while Assange was still detained at Belmarsh. On May 13th and 14th, poor Hildur Suna Evarstetir, that is probably the hardest name in the history of this show to read correctly.
And that is saying something.
Yeah, and that is saying something. And this is just the slides are presented as written. I thought maybe there was an error because the full name appears later in the article. This just gives the last name up here. Traveled to the UK to visit Assange in His Majesty's prison in Belmarsh. She talked with Assange for 2 hours and also met with his wife Stella, his solicitor Gareth Pearce, David Morris, who was the chair of the UK delegation to the Assembly, and Jeremy Corbyn, a member of the Assembly. She met with several former UN officials, lawyers, journalists, psychiatrists, human rights defenders, and civil society representatives, too. Even though the UK Home Office was the office that approved the extradition request against Assange, the office declined to make a representative available for a meeting with Evarstetir. Evarstetir, the general rapporteur for political prisoners and an Icelandic parliamentarian who serves on the Committee on Legal Affairs and Human Rights, compiled a report on Assange. It concluded that he meets the Assembly's definition of a political prisoner. Quote, Assange's indictment under the Espionage Act for core journalistic activities such as obtaining and publishing information of high public interest is a manifestly disproportionate interference with his freedom of expression, Evarstetir asserted. I further believe that his prosecution in the United States and resulting lengthy detention in the United Kingdom were motivated by the intention to hide governmental wrongdoings and dissuade others from following Mr. Assange's lead. A draft resolution calls out the United States government for misusing the 1917 Espionage Act to prosecute Assange. It states that the charges pursued against Assange caused a dangerous chilling effect, dissuading publishers, journalists, and whistleblowers from reporting on governmental misconduct, thus severely undermining freedom of expression and opening room for further abuse by state authorities. We'll pause there for a moment because that precedent, despite the fact that we're all grateful that Julian Assange is home with his family, that precedent still stands because he took a plea deal. They did not drop the case and basically admit that this was out of bounds and they shouldn't do this anymore. They basically got him to take a plea. They basically showed mercy in a campaign season so that he wouldn't die in prison, right. Which we're all very grateful for. Don't get me wrong. And the activists who worked on this case for years should be very proud of that because they might not have even gotten that if they didn't make it clear that the optics of actually torturing this man to death would be very bad in a campaign year. So I'm not trying to dismiss or poo-poo the win that is his release, but that precedence still stands. The dangerous chilling effect, as quoted here, still stands. Anything before we go on?
No, go on.
Okay. It is recommended that the U.S. government reform the Espionage Act and make its application conditional to the presence of a malicious intent to harm the national security of the United States or to aid a foreign power, and exclude the application of the Espionage Act to publishers, journalists, and whistleblowers who disclose classified information with the intent to raise public awareness and inform on serious crimes such as murder, torture, corruption, or illegal surveillance. Additionally, the proposed resolution urges the U.S. government to investigate the alleged war crimes and human rights violations disclosed by WikiLeaks. Yeah, that would be nice. And Mr. Assange, holding those responsible to account and tackling a culture of impunity towards state agents or those acting at their behest. It demands that U.S. officials cooperate in good faith with the Spanish judicial authorities who are investigating the surveillance operation that was conducted against Assange, his family, and his legal team while he was living under political asylum in the embassy. Over the objection of Richard Keane, a Conservative Party politician in the UK Parliament, the draft resolution expresses dismay about the fact that the UK, a member state, aggravated the political persecution that Assange endured by ignoring evidence of torture and abuse. The authorities of the UK failed to effectively protect Mr. Assange's freedom of expression and right to liberty, exposing him to lengthy detention in a high-security prison despite the political nature of the most severe charges against him, according to the draft resolution. His detention with a view to extradition far exceeded the reasonable length acceptable for that purpose. In particular, Avarstadir challenged an aspect of the plea agreement that criminalized Assange for publishing raw classified documents. Over 13 years have passed since the publication of the unredacted materials, and no evidence has been produced showing that WikiLeaks' publications have harmed anyone, Avarstadir declared. The plea agreement itself clearly states that as of the date of the plea agreement, the United States has not identified any victim qualifying for individual restitution and thus is not requesting an order of restitution. I find it paradoxical that while Mr. Assange revealed thousands of actually confirmed and previously unreported deaths at the hands of the U.S. and coalition forces in Iraq and Afghanistan, he was the one to be accused of putting multiple lives at risk without any evidence of that claim being presented. So, it was a question on our minds for a while now since Julian's release. When, if ever, will we hear from him? Because he's obviously been through hell, and he's obviously got recovery to do. But this is going to happen very shortly. He's going to fly to France for an October 1st testimony where he will get to testify to his experience as a political prisoner. So I have one word for Julian: Airbus. Airbus.
Yes. Well,
JetBlue, baby.
That. Well, I looked into that. Yeah, JetBlue runs flights in Europe, but they're subcontracting it from other companies.
Yeah,
so you're going to wind up on a Boeing anyway. It's not their fleet in Europe. So no, that's not an option. Yeah, it's amazing after what he's been through for years that he's getting back out there this quickly. I'm sure what he has to say about his experience, particularly his detention in the UK, is going to be very embarrassing for the UK, because it's pretty clear that what they did to him fit the standards of torture by any reasonable measure. And he's going to go and speak about that. And the UK is going to have to respond. And what can they say? This is a very dangerous time, and this is a point we've been trying to make lately. There are no true champions of speech among our elites. There's one set of elites ginning up one set of cultural grievances and promising to defend you from censorship regarding those. And then there's another set of elites championing another kind of censorship. There are no elites fighting for the rights of journalists to speak. This is why we, as the actual people living under these psychopathic governments and with these psychopathic elite class, we need to not be empowering any of these people. Our strategy needs to be to disempower the ruling class, because what? You think if the more intellectual, dark web aligned kind of people are in power, they're not going to shut down someone like Julian Assange if what he reveals is embarrassing to them?
Right. Exactly. Well,
they'll call him woke, and they'll censor him using their power base to do it. They all want to suppress speech. None of the people who are telling you we need to defend Western values, they don't believe that. And after October 7th, we very clearly saw they don't believe that. They're lying to you.
Yeah, and don't forget, it was Trump who did this to him. Now Trump's defenders will say, they
Pompeo did
it. Pompeo did it. Trump, the buck stops. You're the president. You're the most powerful man in the world. You pick your cabinet, first of all. And second of all, you're the executive, right? So that is on you. And the problem with Trump is that for all of the anti-establishment posturing, at the end of the day, I think the problem with him is he's just lazy. He's just too lazy to actually exercise independence
He didn't
over the
pardon
people
him.
around him.
Could have pardoned him. What about
Didn't
that?
pardon him. Right.
He knew all about it. He had Tucker Carlson, who he listens to very closely, asking him to pardon him. Didn't go
Right.
over his head. He wasn't ignorant of it. He knew all about it. He didn't do it.
Exactly. And so it's great that he gets to speak now. I hope, obviously, that he starts speaking more. I hope this is a sort of, first step to him, going and sort of telling his story far and wide. But we will definitely have more to say about what he says. And look, the other big win of securing that plea deal for him is that we get to hear stories like this. Don't forget the political prisoners that they kill. And not only is it a horrible injustice that they keep them in prison or kill them or keep them in jail until their health, goes. The other real loss of that is that we don't get to hear them. We don't get to hear their story of what happened to them.
Right.
And now he gets to tell it firsthand because, look, there have been a lot of journalists who have done really great work on this story for years, Kevin being one of them, whose article we just featured. But ultimately, that was a maximum security prison. We don't know the detail. We don't know the details. We know what people have reported to us. And like I said, there are journalists who have done great jobs giving us as much insight as they can, but nobody can tell it like he can because he was there every second of it.
Exactly. And if he really is able to reemerge into the public eye with the powerful voice that he wielded before they silenced him, he's going to be a very dangerous person to have out there speaking against the state. And we'll see what he needs from us, meaning the people. What can we do to support him? Because that he could potentially, if he's really going to go right back at it, he'll be the most powerful and significant anti-censorship voice literally in the world.
Yep. Agreed. All right, folks, we got 1,200 in the YouTube chat. That's a great crowd for this morning. We got 644 on Rumble. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that follow button over on Rumble. Very, very important. Great to see you all here this morning. We will take some super chats and some Rumble.
I'll be right back.
Sure. No problem. So we'll be right back. Let me see. Is there an ad read I could do while he's gone? No, not yet. All right. Okay. Let's go. Eric Rousseau. I hate this country. America is a fraud. Hey, you guys should see the Gerald Celente interview with George Galloway. I think he dropped it yesterday. I think George Galloway dropped it yesterday. Man, that guy was singing my song on that interview. That was great. If this were a slower news day, I'd actually cover that. Because it was very, very validating to hear him talk like that, because he's been saying kind of that, Eric. And that's, as you know, that's singing my song. Ken Texican, we owe you a cowbell, so we got to do you a virtual cowbell. I'll have Russell do that when he gets back. Thank you for that. I'll read that in just a moment. Peter version 1, thanks for the $4.99. Curious about something. When Trump wins, do you think the Dems will protest Israel's actions because he is for them and they won't know what to do? Well, first of all, Peter, I don't know that Trump is going to win. I think it is a nail-biter. I think it is 50-50. And I think, if he wins, there's an argument to be made that, there will be more protests because he is now the figurehead. But I'm not sure. I mean, don't forget, a lot of these, ultra Zionist Democrats and liberals, quote unquote, may just vote for him, and, as for the question of will the libs get out in the streets for Israel Palestine? I don't know. My guess is maybe not. My guess is that if he were president from the start of this, that would be the case. But given that he's taken over halfway? I'm not sure. Question was, do you think Democrats will protest Israel more under Trump than under Kamala?
I don't think so. I think they have I think they have too many people in their camp
Right.
who are rabid Zionists.
All righty. Well, folks, we're going to take some more Rumble Rants and Super Chats shortly, but we do want to take this moment now to introduce our special guest, our friend, journalist for The Gray Zone. You all know him. Max Blumenthal is here. Max, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Max.
How are you?
Good. How are you, man?
I'm okay. I mean, I'm not a morning guy, but I made an exception for you.
Thank you. Well, you said you got to take your kid to school at 9. I take my kid at 8. So it is an absolute just
Brutal.
mad dash to the laptop for the morning shows now, especially today because I hit so much traffic on the way home. So yeah, it's kind of brutal.
Yeah, I'm the only parent out here who isn't a yeoman farmer in the DC area. So I just don't know why. I don't understand why we're on farm hours still.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, no, my kid's school is early. Well, my guy is kindergarten.
That is what I am seeing all around me here. It is the Jeffersonian ideal.
Yeah.
I had no idea that DC was made up of yeoman farmers.
But time flies, man.
A new Bacon's Rebellion is coming.
Yeah. Time flies, man. I remember when you were announcing your new baby, and now I'm like, oh, you got to take him to school? What? He's in school already? That's the way it goes. Time flies. Well, we got you here to plug this rally, this anti-war rally that is this Saturday in Kingston, New York, not too far from my home stomping grounds of Newburgh, and this is in the Upper Hudson Valley here at the four corners of Freedom, John, and Crown Street, starting at 3 p.m. Speakers include Judge Napolitano, Scott Ritter, Max, Anya Parampil, and Gerald Celente. This is done by Occupy, Peace, and Freedom, and I guess the Trends Journal, which is now based in Kingston, which is Gerald Celente's project. What's going on Saturday, Max? How'd you get involved with this rally? There are a couple of big rallies going on this weekend. Why this one?
Well, on Saturday, Israel's going to be killing tons of children, and the United States will be, along with the UK, considering delivering long-range missiles to Ukraine to strike in and around Moscow. So I think it's a good day for an anti-war rally.
Wow.
And if someone invites me to an anti-war rally, I will do my best to show up in these times. It's sad that this was not listed among young voters' top concerns in a new Wall Street Journal poll. But I think, we take any opportunity we can to educate people. And this is an open air festival in a town about an hour south of Albany, an hour and a half from New York. So it'll be important to reach people. There'll be a big screen there. Roger Waters will be phoning in. We'll hear also from Joe Loria from Consortium News. And I'm going to run the gamut of issues from Ukraine to Gaza, and now Israel's assault on Lebanon, how the U.S. is basically serving as Israel's lawyer behind the guise of wanting peace, and all the domestic repression that we're facing, especially right here on, you're on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
they're just randomly kicking people off left and right.
Yep.
Who challenged the imperial consensus. And, I wonder if we'll have some FBI agents in the audience as well. So I'll have some FBI jokes ready.
Yeah, there you go. Well, when they laugh, you'll know who they are. It's good to have material for them because then, when they get it, you'll know who they are. You'll be able to spot them.
They are known for their comedy stylings.
Yeah, exactly. You've obviously been an advocate for these protests, as have we, for now the past year, coming up on a year. And I still think they're very important. Obviously, you do too. What do you say to people who grow frustrated that after a year of protest, this war has only expanded?
Well, the protest, what we saw last semester, spring semester, well, both semesters on college campuses was what people in Palestine, a lot of them call a student intifada. Intifada kind of means shaking off. It's not how the enemies of Palestine portray it as a kind of terror spree. It just means shrugging off an oppressive system. And I've never seen anything like it on college campuses. Whenever I would be invited to speak at a campus on Palestine this past year, I'd tell them that when I was in school at the University of Pennsylvania, which saw a massive encampment and then an elite Zionist billionaire class driven campaign to drive out the milquetoast dean. When I was there in the 1990s, there were no protests. There was only one protest that I remember. I came down onto Locust Walk in the center of campus, and everybody was standing around. And it was a massive protest, but they didn't know what to do. And I asked someone, "Why are you protesting?" They said alcohol was just banned from campus for 2 days. That was the only thing
Which school was this?
University of Pennsylvania. It's an Ivy League school where, as Curtis Mayfield would have said, was filled with filled with educated fools from uneducated schools. I remember the speaker that came to campus who got the most interest and enthusiasm, there was a line around the block to see him, was Warren Buffett. That's kind of what it was like. And now you see this rising consciousness on campus and all around the country. I mean, I think people are aware that things are deeply wrong, but because of just the lack of a decent education system in this country and the role of corporate media in deliberately confusing and dividing people, the two parties fighting over issues like abortion, but little else, and just a general lack of availability of political education models, people don't know what to do, and they play out their frustration and legitimate anti-establishment anger in ways that sometimes aren't productive or lead nowhere, or they fall back into the Democratic Party, as we're seeing with the uncommitted movement, which sprung up in order to protest at the ballot box the genocidal policy of Joe Biden. That movement has effectively, been co-opted by Democratic Party operatives who are trying to take everyone, including Democratic Socialists of America, Jewish Voice for Peace, the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights. They're all folding together back into a campaign to basically say, we accept the Kamala Harris administration.
Right.
So there's just a few of us out there that are drawing a red line here on the issue of genocide, and also who have been vocal about Ukraine even before 2022. I mean, we've been writing about this, or I've been writing about this and talking about this since 2014. Yep. And so we have to start somewhere. And I think there is so much anger at the foreign policy consensus and about the failure of the two-party system that I think, we have fertile soil. So I'm not necessarily frustrated, although we're living through right now the most dangerous time of my lifetime, for sure. And I lived through part of the Cold War.
Well, Max, so what do you say, because I'm seeing a lot of this, what do you say to people who say, well, it's very much the Chomsky argument. They're saying, I'm not voting to support someone I like. I'm choosing my enemy. And I would rather be fighting a Harris administration than to be fighting a Trump administration. What would your response be to that?
Well, there's no way you're not. The Trump, okay, it depends on who you are. I mean, it depends on where you're coming from. But I would assume, many people watching this, not most of them, feel like the Democratic Party takes them for granted. And if you make that argument, that's the same argument the Democrats have been making ever since, I would say, the Clinton era, when the Democratic Party made no secret of the fact that it was swinging right and adopting key planks of the Republican National Committee as its own, and hasn't broken from them. Not just on war, but on the economy, on corporate free trade, on so many key issues. So when are you going to punish them and try to force them to recognize that they can no longer win elections without your support? There's a petition out by the Uncommitted Movement asking Kamala Harris to suspend arms sales to Israel. That's a great call. You know, I agree with that. That's the only way there will be a ceasefire. And for the many Israelis, Jewish Israelis protesting in the streets of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem for a hostage deal so they can get their prisoners of war and hostages back, that's the only way they're coming back. But that petition contains no threat. There's no pressure behind it. It's simply a polite appeal to someone who is a creation of Silicon Valley, Wall Street, and the Israel lobby to simply do the right thing and cater to a bunch of people who are effectively marginalized within the party because they've been going along for so long because they're so afraid of the bad orange Hitler on the other side. Meanwhile, Kamala's telling us exactly what she's going to do. She is going to build the most, in her words, lethal fighting force in human history out of the U.S. military.
Yep.
She will refuse under any circumstance to make peace on the Korean Peninsula because it is to be a frontline bulwark in the new Cold War, which could become a hot war against China. She is going to confront Putin and extend the Ukraine proxy war with less knowledge of the issue than Joe Biden, but the same level of zeal for war, which means she'll be more controlled by the national security state. She is going to expand NATO, and she is going to defend Israel at any cost. I mean, she has said this. And so you're allowing what it really is, what it really comes down to is they're allowing the culture wars to determine their decision instead of actually drawing a red line on the issue that they say they stand that they say is representative of their deepest values. So I mean what we're doing on Saturday is bringing people together from across the ideological divide. I mean, I used to watch Judge Napolitano on Fox News, and I would say, man, some of what he's saying about civil liberties is much better than what I'm hearing on MSNBC, but on a lot of other issues, he's kind of out there.
Right.
And, you know, I'm a guest on his show every week. I remember Anya Parampil's book, Corporate Coup, about the U.S. regime change operations in Venezuela, premiered at a leftist event space in the Lower East Side in New York, or in the East Village in New York. And Judge Napolitano walked through there in a space filled with activists and like longtime stalwarts of the New York left. And everyone walked up and shook his hand and thanked him for what he was doing because they understood what the stakes were. And they didn't care that he was a Fox News personality. And he came up to me and said, I can't believe it. I have like blue-haired leftists shaking my hand. What's going on? It's like, that's what needs to happen right now. People are moving past all those phony divides. Scott Ritter, I mean, he's someone who's being targeted by the state, by the security state right now, because he's tried to extend himself put himself out there as an ambassador for peace, a personal ambassador for peace with Russia at a time when the U.S. is taunting Russia into a nuclear conflict. Gerald Salente's Trends Journal really isn't a partisan journal at all. And these, I think, you know, the true spirit of Chomsky before he changed into this weird kind of rad lib was in line with the values of this rally and the values of the first Rage Against the War Machine rally, which is just to, you know, unite everyone against the real enemy, which is the war state, and look past all the ruses and artifice that's deployed to keep people who have so much in common divided.
All right. Well, you know, you talked there about the danger of the Democratic Party co-opting anti-war energy and sucking it back into the Kamala Harris camp. There's also a phenomenon happening on the right where I think too many people are deluding themselves into thinking that Donald Trump is a peace candidate. So he tweets out, "Big threats on my life by Iran. The entire U.S. military is watching and waiting. Moves were already made by Iran that didn't work out, but they will try again. Not a good situation for anyone. I am surrounded by more men, guns, and weapons that I have ever seen before. Thank you to Congress for unanimously approving far more money to Secret Service. 0 no votes, strictly bipartisan. Nice to see Republicans and Democrats get together on something. An attack on a former president is a death wish for the attacker." So you quote tweeted this. "Big threats on my life by Iran, quote unquote, equals big donations to my campaign by Israel." Yes, here's Donald Trump saying what he would do as president if Iran, quote unquote, made a big threat.
If I were the president, I would inform the threatening country, in this case Iran, that if you do anything to harm this person, we are going to blow your largest cities and the country itself to smithereens. We're going to blow it to smithereens. You can't do that. And there would be no more threats. There would be no more threats.
All right. So, Russell, you had a question specifically in response. Russell is speaking at the Rage Against War rally the same day you're speaking in Kingston. Go ahead, Russell.
Yeah, a lot of people are. It's very much the same thing as you see with the Kamala people. They read, no. Did you see the way she flipped her hair? No, she's saying that it's Biden, and once she's president, she's gonna ban arms. And you see the same thing with Trump. No, Trump. Once he gets in there, it's the Nixon madman theory. No, he doesn't mean any of what he's actually saying with his actual mouth. He's going to go in there and he's just using that as a negotiating tactic, and he's really the peace candidate. And yet he is telling you what he is going to do, and he certainly was not the peace president when he was president. So how do you respond to that? You have on both sides, people are projecting onto Kamala and on the other side onto Trump this hopium that they're going to bring this peace that they are emphatically telling you they're not going to bring.
Blow it to smithereens. I guess he's going to do to Iran what Laura Loomer supposedly did to him. Yeah. I'll tell that at the rally.
Yeah,
but
you should tell that at the rally. Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought
if not anyone who has not seen Max's stand-up, he's very funny. He's very funny.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do stand-up at the rally. Like they're asking me to, but I think I'm just going to rant and maybe blend in some jokes. Trump is someone I never saw as a peace president or someone who would come around to becoming an opponent of the new Cold War in an ideological sense. I see him more as a rogue, reckless figure who started to chart his own path and was transactional about it, which is much better than a president like Joe Biden, a Kamala Harris, Obama, Clinton, especially Clinton and Biden, who just answer to the national security state and follow this the consensus line that has guided administrations since the end of the Cold War. I mean, honestly, Ronald Reagan was more independent on foreign policy than a lot of these figures when he kicked out the neocon Team B that wanted him to actually escalate with the Soviet Union, and he negotiated with Gorbachev. Mm-hmm. So Trump is just the U.S. national security state, which has effectively released an endorsement of Kamala Harris with 700 former members supporting her election in an open letter, sees Donald Trump the way that it would have seen Saddam Hussein, someone who the CIA provided with chemical weapons to use against Iran. The same way they saw Manuel Noriega, who was a CIA asset who helped destroy socialist groups on college campuses in Panama and then was taken out, as Saddam Hussein was, by the U.S. military. Someone who's just, they lose control of. They sort of lost control of Donald Trump. They're not sure what he's going to do. And he is threatening to withhold weapons to Ukraine, which is far, far more important to the core of the U.S. national security apparatus and to just the liberal political intelligentsia than defeating Iran is. I mean, that really represents an existential threat to continuous NATO expansion, to the project of balkanizing and destroying Russia and preventing another power center in the heart of Eurasia from rising up. And Donald Trump is threatening to do it. I mean, he swings back and forth. No one quite knows what he's going to do. And so it makes perfect sense then that someone who went to recruit fighters for a foreign army in Tehran tried to assassinate Trump. Wait a minute, it wasn't Tehran. Why is Trump and everyone around him saying Iran wants to assassinate him? The guy went to Kiev.
Right.
Ryan Roth went to Kiev. He was all about Ukraine. He was radicalized in Ukraine. He had contacts with figures in the Ukrainian military. He was going to meet with the Ukrainian SBU, which was trained by the CIA. And he was there despite having 74 arrests in the United States. Never did jail time. Arrested twice at least with what was called a weapon of mass destruction, with an assault rifle. He held a standoff in 2002 with the police. His son was just arrested for child porn possession. I mean, this guy is one of the most suspicious figures, and the key link is to Ukraine. And the Republicans, not just Donald Trump, Senator Mike Lee, so many other figures, they're all pointing the finger at Iran. It doesn't make sense. So what's going on here? Seems like they're just following a political playbook presented to them by Donald Trump's largest backer, Miriam Adelson. Promised him $100 million in a super PAC. $100 million. I mean, it's shocking that anyone can give him that much, but it's especially shocking when it's just an Israeli who runs the Israel America Council, which is mainly the Israel First Council, who is an Israeli first, doesn't really know that much about America, just came here because she married a casino baron who was looking for an Israeli wife and inherited his fortune when he died. That's Sheldon Adelson. Sheldon Adelson, who said he regretted having joined the U.S. military when he was younger and wished he could have joined the Israeli military, who called for the U.S. to drop a nuclear bomb on Iran. That's who Donald Trump's answering to. He's answering to the Adelson family that also was one of the largest donors to Netanyahu, that owned Israel Hayom, the largest pro-Netanyahu paper in Israel that publishes in Hebrew. When Donald Trump first announced his run for re-election, he went to meet with, he gave an interview to Israel Hayom and basically had to kiss the ring. So I don't think Donald Trump even has any special affection or interest in Israel. He just sees wealthy Jews as power brokers and will do what they want, kind of in an anti-Semitic way.
Yeah. Well, do you feel, as a Jew, we've made this point quite a lot, that Israel, while claiming that it is protecting Jews, is actually spreading and reinforcing and giving new life to a lot of anti-Semitic tropes. I can't think of something worse for people who are smeared as running the media and having inordinate power in the world through their financial means, openly having a presidential candidate doing a stand-up act about how the Adelsons asked him to do stuff for Israel and he got it done faster than they thought he could.
Yeah, and anyone who's paying attention can see it. They can see what's going on. That an anti-Semitic trope, something that might have featured in a Goebbels propaganda film, is playing out before our eyes in American politics against the backdrop of the Holocaust of our times being carried out by the self-proclaimed Jewish state.
Right.
I mean, I actually believe Jews are a chosen people, but just not in the way that Zionists do and religious fanatics do. We're chosen to set a good example and to do mitzvot, like to do good works, especially in the United States, where we're a minority. We should establish a good reputation and help build this country for everyone. But what Israel and its supporters in the United States are doing, they're destroying the reputation of Jews worldwide and here. And they're so drunk on their own entitlement and affluence and control. And that they don't care what anyone else thinks about them, and that any challenge to their power gets denounced, as we saw with the Michigan Attorney General, Deborah Nessel, I think her name is, who just denounced criticism of her obvious bias and prosecution of Palestine Solidarity students at University of Michigan as anti-Semitism, and then her lackeys in the media, naked Jewish supremacists Dana Bash and Jake Tapper, advanced this campaign alongside the ADL against Rashida Tlaib, the only Palestinian in Congress who's an obvious target of Israel, and just lied about her and lied and said she said that she's biased because she's Jewish, when that was never said.
Not even close. Not even implied.
CNN did nothing to hold them accountable. They issued pathetic clarifications, but they just lied about a legislator for a whole week straight, not even checking the quote. And it took this massive grassroots campaign to even elicit clarifications. It just makes people start to resent Jews in general.
Right.
When this Jewish state is just murdering at least 20 children a day, when its soldiers have been hoisting up menorahs on Hanukkah in destroyed neighborhoods east of Gaza City, wearing women's lingerie inside homes of people they've killed, and scrawling religious nationalist phrases and hoisting Torahs inside destroyed homes. It's setting the stage for something horrible here. And you can kind of see it online.
Yes.
Yes.
You really do see it. People are starting to conflate Zionism with Judaism.
Yes.
Something we've always tried to disrupt as anti-Zionist Jews. I've never seen it so much. There's so little I can do about it when you have these Jake Tappers and Josh Shapiros running around just acting like little entitled warmongers and pretending to be oppressed. And, you know, the fear is one day people will just say enough and they'll hold Jews collectively accountable and it'll be their fault. And for Israel, that's a giant win. That's what Israel wants.
Exactly.
Israel needs anti-Semitism to flourish
Yes.
in order to justify itself as a sanctuary for Jews when, as October 7th showed, it is the least safe place on the planet for Jews to live. I mean, it's the most insane, stupid, counterproductive project. Let's get all the Jews together as many Jews together as possible in one small, tightly confined place, antagonize everyone around us, throw people off their land, and then we'll be safe. It'll all be fine because the United States will give us an iron dome that will protect us forever, and we can just kill them continuously. It's not going to work. What's working is the situation for Jews in America, and Israel's trying to destroy it, and along with everyone who supports it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, I was offered the birthright trip, when I was in my 20s. And, I didn't really know the politics of this back then. I mean, I knew vaguely that Israel was bad, but I thought it was, checkpoints. That's not fair, but that's all it is. That was very naive. So my reason for not taking the birthright trip wasn't so much political as, what are you, fucking crazy? I'm not going to Israel to fucking get killed. Like, I was afraid to go because I thought it was far less safe than a New York City suburb where I lived. Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, Caton's afraid to go to Connecticut.
Well, I get bitten by.
I'm surprised.
They have mean horseflies over there.
Okay, just one final question because I really want your take on this. This is the most black-pilled election I've ever seen. You can see people, even people who were kind of investing in Trump. I've seen a lot of them fall off after he did his stand-up bit about how much money he gets from the Adelsons. It's very hard to invest in Kamala, who is clearly the avatar that the deep state has wanted since they whacked Kennedy. What would you advise people do in this election? Is there any point to even participating? Should they vote for Jill Stein? Should they vote for Chase Oliver? Should they write a candidate in? What would you advise people do?
I'd try to avoid telling people what to do with elections or who to vote for. I don't want to interfere in an American election.
That's right. Yeah.
But I mean, it's just, and it would be equally black-pilled if in this at this point in history, we had the 1996 election of Bill Clinton against Bob Dole, or I don't know, Barack Obama against Mitt Romney. I think at this point, people would see through it all.
Right.
I think it's because a lot of, America Firsters had this hope that Donald Trump would take on the establishment, and they saw him get rolled. Those who were actually conscious enough and not total cultists. But what I'm going to do is just what I have been doing. And this isn't necessarily where I come from, but what I'm helping people see through the fraud of electoralism until we can get to a point where there's something hopeful to advance in this country. We have to have an analysis, like a systemic critique, and we have to get in the way and continue to take on the media, which is the most malignant force in this country. I commend the people who protested Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. Right. And they're doing something that really hasn't been done before, which is to confront these people to their faces, because they're never going to be held accountable for their genocide manufacturing lies. And I think, people are starting to get it, that we're going to be hit with so much pressure and coercion to vote, almost as much coercion as we got hit with to vax. And it's going to be the same result. You're still going to catch the virus. You're still going to get it. It's not going to protect you. And you have to join the real resistance. But I'm not going to tell people who to vote for or endorse candidates. It sets you up when you do that. Like I did an event with Jill Stein, for example. I respect her a lot, in DC before her campaign had really taken off. I thought she did really well. I just, it was like a Q&A at a small activist-oriented cafe in the DC suburbs. And just the fact that she shows up in places like that is a testament to her commitment to the grassroots. But I mean, she issued a really disappointing statement last week, conflating Bashar al-Assad and Vladimir Putin with all these U.S. presidents who helped destroy Syria and surrounded Russia with military bases, and just said, well, they're all war criminals. And it's because her campaign came under fire from some Muslim groups that wanted regime change in Syria. And it's like the same kind of ethnic politics that the Republicans and Democrats play with Cuban Americans and Venezuelan Americans, where they'll agree to do regime change in their countries if they'll vote for them and help them flip Florida. And so I was glad I never endorsed Jill Stein or told people to vote for her. I just, I'm trying to hold the line at the gray zone and let people make up their own minds, and not lose hope completely. I mean, what do you do when you completely lose hope? Like, you just leave the country, or like, what do you do?
All right. Well, now you're going to make me, sorry, go ahead.
You do the expat thing, I guess. Yeah.
You get all into like health supplements and like doing weird breathing exercises and meditation, and you go into yourself.
Really, I mean, that's the story of the 60s into the 70s, right? Everybody got into mood rings and Eastern mysticism. I mean, you're right. That is what happens. You're going to get into kind of self-improvement and pop psychology, that kind of thing.
Psychobabble.
Exactly.
Psychobabble.
All right. Well, before I let you go, I have to do a Jimmy Dore cover bit and say that while that vax you just maligned will not necessarily stop the spread, it will slow it, and it will protect you from serious illness and death. So check your local CVS for more information.
According to the World Health Organization.
Exactly.
You have to say that, I think.
Which is God here in East Berlin, here on YouTube. Exactly. Once again, the rally, September 28th, Peace and Freedom. I'll be there as an audience member. Max will be there on stage. Judge Napolitano, Scott Ritter, Max Blumenthal, Anya Parapil, Gerald Salenti, 3 p.m. in Kingston this Saturday. Go to Occupy Peace and Freedom for more information, but that's pretty much it. Max, I will let you get on to your morning coffee. Thank you so much for making time for us today, and I'll see you Saturday.
Thank you, Max.
Great seeing you both.
All
See
right.
you there.
Have a good one. Max Blumenthal, everybody. Round of applause for him. Thanks to Max for making time in the morning. It's tough to get guests in the morning, right? They're like, oh,
it is.
Oh boy. Yeah.
You know what I like about Max? Max is the kind of guy who you can schedule a live interview with because you know he's going to show up.
That's right. That's right.
You know,
reliable. Exactly.
He's reliable. You schedule Max. Okay, Max.
You get Max, right?
You get Max. You get Max. It's our viewers love the live interviews. We used to do all our interviews live. Then we had a problem. We decided not to do that.
Now
but
we have to vet the character of each live interview.
We have to vet the character. We usually now what we do is we have them take a personality test.
Right. Yeah, right, exactly.
Before we schedule them.
All right, folks, we didn't get to do this last time, but we'll do it this time because National Preparedness Month is almost over. And so it is National Preparedness Month. And at 4 Patriots, we want to celebrate by bringing back this unbelievable buy one, get one deal on solar generators. For a limited time, when you buy the powerful Patriot Power Generator 2000X, you'll get a mini generator for free. Plus, you'll also score 2 solar panels for free as well. That's right. So not 1, but 2 solar panels come with this incredible buy one, get one deal on solar generators. So once again, that's buy one generator, get a free generator, plus 2 solar panels. How great is that? Claim your independence and free mini generator and free solar panels by going to 4patriots.com. Hurry, though. You only got till midnight on September 30th to claim that free mini generator offer because that's when National Preparedness Month ends. So go to 4Patriots, number 4Patriots.com today.
I keep forgetting to tell you, early on when you were asking the audience about sound, they said you were lower than me.
Oh, well, that's probably... All right, so here, I'll juice mine a little bit then. I thought maybe I was too loud, but your mic settings are a little different.
Well, because I'm on.
Because it's a new machine.
I'm on a different. Well, that's why actually. You all right? You all right there, buddy?
Yo, man, I don't know.
You doing all right?
Yeah, not good. Very resilient. Cold or whatever I got.
You got a cold?
Yeah. Well, I've had a cold for like a couple of weeks because when the kids go back to school, you get sick for all the fall because it's a petri dish in there, that kindergarten room.
Yeah. Know? Oh yeah, man. Kids are like they're a vector.
Yeah, exactly.
Wives are like that too. I used to get sick a lot when I was married because she would get sick.
I think during COVID they should have closed the schools and nowhere else.
They should have closed the wives.
They closed the wives in the kindergarten classes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Keep Applebee's open and nix that kindergarten
sick.
shit. Yeah.
No, I almost never get sick. When I was married, I would get sick like 3 times a year.
Well, that's probably because you're tired and stressed as well. You're more vulnerable.
Well, that too. Like you have to go take those walks around the corner in the bitter cold when you're fighting. There's that.
There's that.
All that.
There's getting thrown out of. It gets cold when you get thrown out of the apartment.
Yeah, you got to go sit on a bench across the street until you figure she calmed down.
Exactly. Chirpy, thanks for the $1.99. Have you guys considered having Whitney Webb? Not only have we considered it, we are trying to put that together.
We're working on it.
Working on it. JM, thanks for the $2. Appreciate that. James Vanderzanden, count the cops by the doors and grocery stores in D.C. Interesting. Oh, yeah, James Vanderzanden, you're in the area. Hey, you should come out to the rally if you're in the area this weekend. Lorian Brightbill, thanks for the $4.99. The Espionage Act, over 100 years of tyranny and still going strong. Thank you for that. 265005, thanks for the $5. For all Trumpers out there, blaming Pompeo is like blaming the parliamentarian. Same shit, different hat. I appreciate that. Yes, I agree. Let's see what we got here. Who we got here? Kuznetsky Bassane, thanks for the $9.99. Max rocks. Yes, thank you. We agree. Michael Castillo, thanks for the $20. Mad Max Blumenthal is the real road warrior. Good morning, gentlemen.
Oh, yeah.
Indeed. Thank you. B-Man, thanks for the $5. No Gaza protests. Did Intel infiltrate the movement? And I'm sure Intel is lying to Trump about Iran. There have been Gaza protests. There was just a Lebanon protest, actually, in the city. Pretty big one this past weekend. So, yeah, no, they're still going. They're still out there. Keep on trucking.
Yeah, well, this is the thing with Trump. I don't know why people think it was Pompeo as a defense. So at best, you're saying this guy is too fundamentally ignorant to run his own administration.
Yeah, exactly.
How is that a good thing?
Saying he's a lazy fuck, right?
How is that good?
Yeah.
How is that an argument for Trump?
And the most obvious thing that he was a lazy fuck is when he said in the campaign that everybody's going to have health care. We're not going to have people dying on the streets. And then during the fight to overturn Obamacare, he was very clear that he would sign whatever the Republicans got.
Whatever they gave him.
He would not
Whatever
give his
they
input
gave him.
whatsoever.
Yep.
Just get it to my desk. I'll sign it. No questions asked. I woke up that day. I remember we were working at a jewelry show in Philadelphia. And it was a wholesale show. So like you get a lot of orders and that kind of carries you through the season. I remember waking up that day fully expecting not to have health care by the end of the day. And then when the news broke that John McCain gave a thumbs down, I was like, whew, that was close. That was close. And that's because for all his promises, he's just a lazy bastard. Just, oh, it's a beautiful plan what they have. He probably didn't even know what the fuck was in it.
It's beautiful. Well, this is another thing. Hey, man, we are of the position that genocide, forgive the phrase, trumps everything else. But if you do look at the level of culture and abortion rights, these guys are sick bastards, man. I mean, you got people dying now because people are afraid to perform emergency care that could be construed as abortion. We have a story about that. Now, if you're really an extreme right-wing Christian conservative, I guess you like that. I don't think we have a lot of people like that in our audience who are to that extreme. Look at what these people want to do. I think it's like judo. You know, a lot of judo is using your opponent's moves against them, pulling them off balance. I think a lot of people, they threw so much momentum into being offended, rightly, and you know my coverage. You know I'm not a fan of the drag queen story hour kind of shit. They put so much into that, they got pulled into other things that they probably don't like even more.
Right.
But it's hard once you have that momentum going not to get pulled in.
Right. Ken Texican, thanks for the $50. Let's give Ken Texican his virtual cowbell on the soundboard. Do you have that? The virtual cowbell? Can
You know what? I just realized.
Yeah.
I usually bring my stuff when I go out of town, not the cowbell. Although I would have this time because I'm not on a plane.
Yeah. Betting my last scraggly gramps, mega truth bomb about to drop. A Jew friend of mine, John, said, "And ye shall know the truth, and it will make you free." And scare the fuck out of the State Department. Thank you. That's very kind of you, Ken Texican. Appreciate that. A man's religion matters little to me so long as he holds the truth and pursuit there as something akin to sacred. Thank you. And let's get another cowbell for Ken Texican, another $50. That's very kind of you. Got to run. But I thank you, gentlemen, and guys like Max, Aaron, and Greenwald, as guys willing to put it on the line in the pursuit of truth. Stay strong. Thank
you, Ken Texican.
Appreciate that.
This is going to be a crazy weekend, man.
Yeah.
Between what's going on up in Kingston, what's going on down here. It's going to be a lot to talk about Sunday. I mean, I won't be there to talk about it unless I call in. But
yeah, a lot going on.
Tuesday.
The event itself runs late. The Rescue the Republic goes till 7 o'clock at night.
Does it?
Yeah, it goes like all day. So yeah.
Hang on. When is it starting? 12?
12. It's a big event.
That's going 7 hours.
Yeah, it's like a big event. Yeah, apparently.
Oh wow.
They got music. Wow. They got speakers.
All right. Well, the Rage Against the War Machine's 12 to 5, right?
Yeah, I think that's a little shorter. Yeah. Can the Strike. Hey, DD, I like this 9 a.m. time slot. I get to start my day by jerking around at work, but not like that. Thanks, Can the Strike. Appreciate that. Yes, keep it classy always. Alrighty, folks. We're going to keep on moving along here. So this was the big story this week. Huge story this week. Huge bombshell report by ProPublica. Israel deliberately blocked humanitarian aid to Gaza, 2 government bodies concluded. Antony Blinken rejected them. So this is the ProPublica report. That is all the talk this week. The U.S. government's 2 foremost authorities on humanitarian assistance concluded this spring that Israel had deliberately blocked deliveries of food and medicine into Gaza. The U.S. Agency for International Development delivered its assessment to Secretary of State Antony Blinken and the State Department's Refugees Bureau made its stance known to top diplomats in late April. Their conclusion was explosive because U.S. law requires the government to cut off weapons shipments to countries that prevent the delivery of U.S.-backed humanitarian aid. Israel has been largely dependent on American bombs and other weapons in Gaza since Hamas's October 7th attacks. But Blinken and the administration of President Joe Biden did not accept either finding. Days later, on May 10th, Blinken delivered a carefully worded statement to Congress that said, "We do not currently assess that the Israeli government is prohibiting or otherwise restricting the transport or delivery of U.S. humanitarian assistance." Prior to his report, USAID had sent Blinken a detailed 17-page memo on Israel's conduct. The memo described instances of Israeli interference with aid efforts, including killing aid workers, razing agricultural structures, bombing ambulances and hospitals, sitting on supply depots, and routinely turning away trucks full of food and medicine. So the level of detail in these reports is impressive and unmistakable, which is what makes this story as damning as it is. Life-saving food was stockpiled less than 30 miles across the border in an Israeli port, including enough flour to feed about 1.5 million Palestinians for 5 months, according to the memo. But in February, the Israeli government had prohibited the transfer of flour, saying its recipient was the United Nations Palestinian branch that had been accused of having ties with Hamas. I'm assuming that means UNRWA. It doesn't spell that out specifically in the report, but that is what I assume that means, since we know that they made that charge. Separately, the head of the State Department's Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration had also determined that Israel was blocking humanitarian aid and that the Foreign Assistance Act should be triggered to freeze almost $830 million in taxpayer dollars earmarked for weapons and bombs to Israel, according to emails obtained by ProPublica. The USAID officials wrote that because of Israel's behavior, the U.S. should pause additional arms sales to the country. ProPublica obtained a copy of the agency's April memo along with the list of evidence that the officials cited to back up their findings. USAID, which is led by longtime diplomat Samantha Power, said the looming famine in Gaza was the result of Israel's arbitrary denial, restriction, and impediments of U.S. humanitarian assistance, according to the memo. It also acknowledged Hamas had played a role in the humanitarian crisis. USAID, which receives overall policy guidance from the Secretary of State, is an independent agency responsible for international development and disaster relief. The agency had for months tried and failed to deliver enough food and medicine to a starving and desperate Palestinian population. It is, USAID concluded, one of the worst humanitarian catastrophes in the world. The USAID memo was an indication of a deep rift within the Biden administration on the issue of military aid to Israel. In March, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Jack Lew, sent Blinken a cable arguing that Israel's war cabinet, which includes Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, should be trusted to facilitate aid shipments to the Palestinians. Lew acknowledged that other parts of the Israeli government have tried to impede the movement of humanitarian assistance, according to a copy of his cable obtained by ProPublica, but he recommended continuing to provide military assistance because he had assessed that Israel will not arbitrarily deny, restrict, or otherwise impede U.S. provided or supported shipments of food and medicine. In the months leading up to that cable, Lew had been told repeatedly about instances of the Israelis blocking humanitarian assistance, according to 4 U.S. officials familiar with the embassy operations, but, like others quoted in this story, not authorized to speak about them. Quote, "No other nation has ever provided so much humanitarian assistance to their enemies," Lew responded to subordinates at the time, according to 2 of the officials who said the comments drew widespread consternation. That put people over the edge, one of the officials told ProPublica. He'd be a great spokesperson for the Israeli government. A second official said Lew had access to the same information as USAID leaders in Washington, in addition to evidence collected by the local State Department diplomats working in Jerusalem, but his instincts are to defend Israel, said a third official. Okay, so we're going to read, we have a lot more to this, but I'll just pause there. So you see, they put a guy like Jack Lew in there, who is a diehard Zionist, in order to provide the counter to the agency's findings, so that when Blinken goes up and lies and says they're not blocking aid, he can point to this guy, well, I had conflicting information. Meanwhile, this Jack Lew had access to the same information that USAID had access to. His job is to just shill for Israel so that Blinken can say, well, I had two different opinions in my ear and I had to pick one, right? That's what that's there for.
Right.
That's the only reason he's there.
Right. So when Count Morlock goes up on stage and says there's an investigation ongoing, we're waiting to find out the conclusion, he's lying to you. The investigation has been done. It's been concluded. And they know damn well that based on U.S. law, they're not supposed to be sending weapons and money to this country. They know that.
Exactly. All right, we'll continue. The question of whether Israel was impeding humanitarian aid has garnered widespread attention. Before Blinken's statement to Congress, Reuters reported concerns from USAID about the death toll in Gaza, which now stands at about 42,000, and that some officials inside the State Department, including the Refugees Bureau, had warned him that the Israelis' assurances were not credible. The existence of USAID's memo, Lew's cable, and their broad conclusions were also previously reported. But the full accounting of USAID's evidence, the determination of the Refugees Bureau in April, and the statements from experts at the embassy, along with Lew's decision to undermine them, reveal new aspects of the striking split within the Biden administration and how the highest-ranking American diplomats have justified his policy of continuing to flood Israel with arms over the objections of their own experts. Stacy Gilbert, a former senior civil military advisor in the Refugees Bureau, who had been working on drafts of Blinken's report to Congress, resigned over the language in the final version. There is abundant evidence showing that Israel is responsible for blocking aid, she wrote in a statement shortly after leaving, which the Washington Post and other outlets reported on. To deny this is absurd and shameful. That report and its flagrant untruths will haunt us. The State Department's headquarters in Washington did not always welcome that kind of information from U.S. experts on the ground, according to a person familiar with the embassy operations. That was especially true when experts reported the small number of aid trucks being allowed in. A lot of times they would not accept it because it was lower than what the Israelis said, the person told ProPublica. The sentiment from Washington was, we want to see the aid increasing because Israel told us it would. So we'll take a quick game break here, and we'll hear from Stacy Gilbert. This was an interview that she gave to Democracy Now! Back in May after resigning based on the fact that the State Department was essentially covering up the deliberate blockage of aid. So this is a couple minutes of that interview.
Working on this report, I was working on this report with many others. There were a handful of us who were very, very engaged in every sentence of that. But at some point, we were removed from that report, and it was moved up to a higher level to be written and edited and cleared. So even though I had worked on this pretty heavily since this directive from the White House came out in early February, I did not know what was in the report until it came out. That said, I was actually hopeful that it would be an honest report, because earlier that week, the White House had made an announcement that it was going to pause the 2,000-pound bombs that have really caused disproportionate destruction in Gaza. So they had announced a pause on that. And I was actually pretty hopeful that maybe this report was going to be honest. So when the report came out on May 10th, late in the day, I read it. And I had to reread it because I couldn't believe what it said. It said very clearly, it actually, so on those 2 points, I was surprised on the point about Israel's adherence to international humanitarian law. For the first time I'm aware of, we admitted in very, very weak terms, but we admitted that Israel is likely using U.S. weapons in violation of international humanitarian law. I was surprised. That was a step forward in admitting that. I was shocked, however, that it also went on to say that it is our assessment that Israel is not blocking humanitarian assistance, that is not the view of subject matter experts at the State Department, at USAID, nor among the humanitarian community, and that was known. That was absolutely known to the administration for a very long time, not just within the government, but having received reports and letters from organizations on the ground in Gaza, organizations the U.S. government funds, credible organizations saying Israel is blocking humanitarian assistance.
So there you have it. From her, that was back in May. Now, the U.S. gives the Israeli government about $3.8 billion every year as a baseline and significantly more during wartime. Money the Israelis use to buy American-made bombs and equipment. Congress and the executive branch have imposed legal guardrails on how Israel and other partners can use that money. One of them is the Foreign Assistance Act. The humanitarian aid portion of the law is known as 620I, which dates back to Turkey's embargo of Armenia during the 1990s. That part of the law has never been widely implemented. But this year, advocacy groups and some Democrats in Congress brought it out of obscurity and called for Biden to use 620I to pressure the Israelis to allow aid freely into Gaza. In response, the Biden administration announced a policy called the National Security Memorandum, or NSM-20, to require the State Department to vet Israel's assurances about whether it was blocking aid and then report its findings to lawmakers. If Blinken determined, this is a very key sentence, if Blinken determined the Israelis were not facilitating aid and were instead arbitrarily restricting it, as was literally the exact quote, that this is an arbitrary restriction of aid from the report itself, excuse me, then the government would be required by the law to halt military assistance. Blinken submitted the agency's official position on May 10th, siding with who? Lou, the guy who was put there to give plausible deniability to Blinken, which meant that the military support would continue. So you could just put a hack in there who will say anything, no matter what the information is, and then Blinken gets to say, well, I took his word for it. And, you know, so not only is that malfeasance on Blinken's part, but as we know from this report and these findings, Lou is just a straight up liar, just like Blinken is, because he had access to the same information that the agencies had access to, and he saw their findings. Almost done. In its memo to Blinken, USAID also cited numerous publicly reported incidents in which aid facilities and workers were hit by Israeli airstrikes, even sometimes after they had shared their locations with the IDF and received approval, a process known as deconfliction. Wow. The Israeli government has maintained that most of these incidents were mistakes. Right. USAID found the Israelis often promised to take adequate measures to prevent such incidents, but frequently failed to follow through. On November 18th, for instance, a convoy of aid workers was trying to evacuate along a route assigned to them by the IDF. The convoy was denied permission to cross a military checkpoint despite previous IDF authorization. Then, while en route to back to their facility, the IDF opened fire on the aid workers, killing 2 of them. And that is the conclusion.
World's most moral army, folks.
Yep. That is the conclusion of the report. And so this was big news this week. And so Antony Blinken went on the CBS morning show and was asked about this. And here's his response.
ProPublica has determined that 2 agencies found that Israel is deliberately stopping humanitarian aid from getting to civilians. And as you well know, the U.S. government says that it has to restrict supplying weapons to a country that does this type of thing. Why have we not done so?
Yeah. So this is actually pretty typical. We had a report to put out on the humanitarian situation in Gaza and what Israel was doing to try to make sure that people got the assistance they needed. And I had different assessments from different parts of the State Department, from other agencies that were involved, like USAID. My job is to sort through them, which I did, draw some conclusions from that, and we put out our report. And we found that Israel needed to do a better job on the humanitarian assistance. We've seen improvements since then. It's still not sufficient.
So there you have it. He says it right there.
That was a masterclass in deniability. You notice how he's very careful not to say anything where he could wind up getting accused of perjury in later congressional testimony that he may have to give on this subject. He's very he keeps it very vague. Well, there were different reports from different parts. He doesn't get specific about what he looked at or whose report said what. I had to make a judgment call. He's very careful not to say anything that he can be nailed on.
Exactly. Two agencies said unmistakably Israel is intentionally blocking life-saving aid, and not a little bit. You said there, enough flour to feed 1.5 million Gazans for 5 months. Israel deliberately blocking that for arbitrary reasons. Those were his two agencies who said that. The racist, die-in-the-wool Zionist hack, Jack Lew, who's the ambassador, just says, I don't agree with that assessment. And Blinken, in that news clip, and according to the report...
That's a report.
That's a report. That carries equal weight to these two agencies who gave you a thoroughly documented, damning report of how aid is being intentionally blocked. But the ambassador, who we put there for this exact reason, says, I don't agree with that. Based on what? Based on nothing. I don't agree with that. I'm the ambassador. I'm telling you no. No, they're not intentionally blocking it. He chooses his word over theirs. They are fucking criminals. They are criminals. You have people starving to death because of this. And we had an obligation, a legal obligation, according to the Biden administration, according to his own boss, he had a legal obligation to cut off weapons were this to happen, right? Now, if he had the stones to stand up to Netanyahu a little bit, he would say, hey, listen, you have to let more aid in order for us to send you the weapons. Like, the result of this didn't have to be, obviously it should have been from our point of view. There's no arguing that. I don't think anybody's under the impression we feel any differently. There should be an arms embargo anyway. But if Blinken had this, he could have told Netanyahu, you have to let this aid in, otherwise we are going to be in a bind, not being able to legally send you weapons. He didn't even do that. Instead, he just chose to lie and say, no, they're not blocking aid, which means they get to continue to block aid because we deny that they're doing it. So if we deny that they're doing it, what reason is there for Israelis not to block aid? And they get the weapons anyway, right? So Blinken, by not doing the bare minimum of diplomacy, created the worst of both worlds, where he let Israel continue to blockade and sent Israel weapons to keep killing people. And that's a bombshell report. I mean, that is. I mean, the guy is caught red-handed as a fucking criminal liar.
Yeah, when you watch, I remember a while ago there was a clip of him going on stage, Blinken, and trying to emote concern. Of course, we care about the loss of innocent life. And coming out of a directing background, it really felt like watching bad acting. That's when you have an actor who really can't sell it, and they just do kind of the kabuki of the emotion. You could see, oh, well, people kind of tighten their vocal cords when they're really concerned. So I'm going to do that. But it was so obvious he didn't give a fuck about these people. You don't get his job if you do.
Right.
When occasionally somebody with a conscience is in that job, they're always at odds with the administrations that they serve. Because what is required is to be a genocidal professional liar. In terms of our relationship as a nation to Israel, it's whenever you have a relationship, whether it's romantic, whether it's business, what have you, any transaction where you don't have a red line is one in which you have no leverage and no power. If your partner knows you'll never walk out the door, well, you're opening yourself up to a lot of abuse, right? Because why? There's nothing to make somebody pause and say, well, if I do this, they're going to react. That's the relationship we have with Israel. They know there is absolutely nothing they could do that would be a red line. And so they don't set any red lines for themselves.
Right.
And if you look at what they have done, it is a classic case of the results of dehumanizing the enemy. Any war, to some extent, you have to dehumanize the enemy, to murder people, to do that. You have to. Israel, it's a step beyond. They have this historic trauma from the Holocaust that they have projected onto these people. These people are Nazis in their minds. These are the people who murdered their ancestors. And there is no limit to what you can do to people like that. We have to wipe them out. These are the people who murdered us. If you give them half a chance, they'll have us in the ovens.
Exactly. All right, we will move on here. Abiding, thanks for the $1. Third parties don't get traction because people treat their vote like a $2 win ticket at a track or some sort of Stockholm compunction. Thank you, Abiding. Appreciate that very much. Judy Denmark, thanks for the $50. Let's have another virtual cowbell for Judy. Thank you. Judy says, I can't afford to love you guys so much, but keep doing what you so well. Well, thank you, Judy. Appreciate that very much. It's very kind of you.
Thank you, Judy.
B Daily at Work for $5 just bought 4 tickets to Russell's October 26th tour for my daughter's birthday. Looking forward to it.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Folks,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's awesome. And if you want the tickets to Russell's walking tour, his Weird New York, real life Weird New York walking tour right before Halloween, that's dudissidents.com/tour. When you sign up, you will get all the logistics, meeting time info, and things like that. And when you sign up to be a member at local Substack or Patreon, you get streaming access. So if you're not in the New York area and you want to join virtually, you'll be able to join virtually when you become a member. But that's dudissidents.com/tour. Tickets on sale now, running out. Looks like they're going fast.
We will be going to the site of a very famous Weather Underground bombing. We'll be going to the site of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, a spot where Gigi Allen had one of his last performances, if you know, you know, and in a MK Ultra safe house, among other spots.
There you go. Eric Rousseau, all my friends and family are either shit libs or Trumpers. Both are deep in cognitive dissonance. I feel alone. At least I have DD, Jimmy Dore Show, Gray Zone, etc. to lessen the loneliness. We're here for you, Eric. Thank you very much.
Listen. It's a bummer for us, too. Honestly. What, you think it's easy to keep doing a show where all the choices are terrible? It keeps reminding me of a Hunter Thompson line. Some people tend to feel queasy when the conversation turns to things like certain death and total failure and the idea of a doomed generation. But not me. I am comfortable with these themes.
There you go. Good memory. El Casador, damn, Keaton's looking really useful like a Heebs Bieber. Luckily, he was not in Diddy's orbit because he would have used up at least 100 lube tubes being passed around his elite friends. Yeah, no, I'm safe and sound. Thank you.
Best audience ever.
Yes. Eric Rousseau, we will never get anything for the people because all our wealth and productivity is used to feed the empire and its corruption. We must unite to defeat the U.S. war machine first. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that very much. El Casador. And Russ sitting there like a king awaiting his minions to bow before him while he's sitting back. Yeah, he does look like royalty there in that big chair. Sparky, thanks for the $10 over on YouTube. Careful, Keaton and Russ. Max may have more truth than you can handle. By the way, Judge Napolitano's show and the Duran are around 20 minutes to a half hour, not 3 hours, like Russ indicated on last show. Is that all? Well, did they do clips or do they do streams? I thought they.
Did I indicate their show times? Because I wouldn't know their show times. You may have misunderstood something I said.
Sparky, thanks for the $10. Deep State wants a war with Iran in a bad way. So FBI came up with an Iranian assassination conspiracy to preload Trump with anti-Iranian rage in case he's elected. Yeah, that's what I was, I meant to bring that up to Max, but, whenever you end an interview, you're always like, damn, I meant to say this, and this. But it seems like, Trump has to be able to frame a war with Iran as being America first, right? He can't admit to his base he's doing it for Israel. Right. So he has to come up with this threat. Oh, they're threatening us. So it's America. This is an America First war. This isn't Israel's war.
Yeah,
It's
not
us. Yeah.
It's not the other kind. It's not a deep state war.
Exactly.
It's not like a war the deep state has been begging for since the Bush administration.
Yeah, for 20 years. Exactly.
Yeah, nothing like that. No, the video that we dropped, and I talked about it a little with Max, where Trump goes up and brags about how servile he is to the Adelsons. They couldn't believe how fast they got them to Golan Heights. They couldn't believe it. I got it in 15 minutes. I have seen more comments from people who were going to vote for Trump saying that that's the last straw. That was their red line.
Yeah.
He literally said, "Make Israel great again." Come on, man. Come on. I know that's what I mean. People are getting very black-pilled because even after that particularly, I'm seeing more and more people like, well, I guess fuck Trump too then.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. Quintessential Shmuley quote 2 days ago. Judaism without Israel is like Yiddishkeit without yarmulke or tzitzis or kosher food. By the way, bring back Norm. Yeah, we do want to have Norm back. Did a great interview with Greenwald the other day.
Yeah.
Peter version 1, thanks to the $4.99. The guy went to Ukraine, but the CIA found a small 5 foot by 5 foot town called Ukraine in Iran. Yeah, there you go. Sparky, thanks to the $10. Longtime never Trumper Chris Wray was replaced at Atlanta law firm King and Spalding by his BFF, disgraced interim AG Sally Yates, when he became FBI director. Small world wasn't even a secret. Sparky, thanks for the $5. Great work, Max. Hope you appear on Due Dissidents often. Yeah, we'd love to have Max back anytime. And we're going to see him, so he'll be on the show in some form or another because we're going to talk to him on camera on Saturday. Sir Bikes a Lot Day, thanks for the $10. What you can do right now is to pick up the book Green Wizardry by John Michael Greer and follow his advice. Collapse now so you're not in a rush to do it when it happens. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
I am working my way through chaos right now.
Teg Derb, thanks to the $2. 2016 MAGA voters were more open to dialogue than I'm with her voters. 2024 MAGA voters ignore all evidence of Trump betraying his campaign promises. Absolutely. 100% true. Yes, we've observed that ourselves. Trump is a white Haitian because he likes chasing and grabbing pussy. Maybe also sausage dogs, too. Thanks, El Casador. Appreciate that. Fertile Green, excuse me. Thank you guys for the donations today. They're super helpful. Always learning from Max. Thanks for your amazing work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Ken Texican stuck around. Okay, didn't actually have to get on the road for a few more minutes. $5 for Max's outrageous, fallacious Trump supporter joke. Yeah, Max has jokes, man. Max does good stand-up.
Max's stand-up is, honestly, I really wish he had time to devote to that more, because when I heard Max's stand-up at the book event he was talking about, I was at that event. I didn't notice Napolitano, actually, because I was filming the event. I was live streaming we live streamed it, right? Didn't we live stream it?
You live streamed it to Twitter, yeah.
Yeah, we live streamed it. When I saw his stand-up, I said, all right, that is the comedy we need in our times. And there are so few people who have the political depth to do true political comedy. The political comedy we really need. That's not Orange Man bad comedy, like real political comedy that's informed. It was great. It was such a breath of fresh air to see that. The only person out there doing that is Jimmy.
Right. All right. So let's move on. This is a New York story that broke overnight, basically. There were developments leading to this for the past few days, but the main meat of the story broke overnight. Russell, how do you feel about reading these slides? Give your partner's ailing voice a rest.
Let me see if I can, because I'm on here. Everything's smaller. All right, I'm going full screen.
You see the excuses I deal with?
Hang on. I can't even move the slides.
All right, I'll do it. Fine.
So,
all right.
Dude, what do you...
I'm just busting balls. It's all right. I understand. Working with limited tech.
I mean, go to the next slide. I'll see if I can read it when you get there.
All right. New York City Mayor Eric Adams indicted in federal corruption investigation, according to sources. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can read that.
All right,
yeah,
beautiful.
that's fine. New York Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted by a federal grand jury on charges that remain sealed, according to sources familiar with the matter. 300 bottles of lube were found at Gracie Mansion. Oh, no. Wait. The latest development makes Adams the first mayor in New York City history to ever be indicted while in office. Now, I got to say, as a New Yorker, that's not a statement on the purity of former mayors. That's simply a statement on the corruption of the prosecutors. Because certainly there have been previous mayors who were worthy of prosecution while in office. A spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York declined to comment. Meanwhile, Adams responded to the indictment in a statement released Wednesday night.
Okay,
you
so
flip the slides.
Yeah, I'll flip the slides here, but actually, instead of reading this, they released video of this. So even this slideshow is a little bit obsolete because we actually have the video of his statement. So let's watch that.
It is now my belief that the federal government intends to charge me with crimes. If so, these charges will be entirely false, based on lies. But they would not be surprising. I always knew that if I stood my ground for all of you, that I would be a target. And a target I became. For months, leaks and rumors have been aimed at me in an attempt to undermine my credibility and paint me as guilty. Just this past week, they searched the home of our new police commissioner, looking for documents from 20 years ago, just 1 week after he joined my administration. Enough. I will fight these injustices with every ounce of my strength and my spirit. If I'm charged, I know I am innocent.
You know who's actually backing him on this? MAGA. And you know why MAGA's backing him on this? I mean, this broke literally overnight, so we didn't have time to put all this together. But we could do a whole segment on MAGA defending Eric Adams. Their theory is that the deep state is targeting him because he bitched about the migrants. That's what they're saying. Yeah,
Okay.
that he complained about the migrants.
What about all the other mayors that have complained about the migrants?
Exactly, yeah.
What about all the governors that have complained about the migrants? What about the entire Republican Party that's complained about the migrants?
Right, and you have them under investigation. Right?
Just Eric Adams.
Indicted? Just Eric
Just
Adams.
Eric Adams, who overall is a reliable puppet in every other way.
Yeah.
And even on the migrants, he hasn't really said much either.
Yeah.
It's not like he's really out front forcefully objecting to this. He has on occasion, but he hasn't made it his signature. The police officer turned politician, along with members of his inner circle, has spent nearly a year under the cloud of federal investigations. His cell phones were seized, and in recent weeks, the residences of some of his closest confidants were searched by federal agents working on several related corruption probes. The mayor 2 weeks ago accepted the resignation of Edward Caban, his hand-picked police commissioner, after the authorities issued a subpoena for his phones. The mayor's chief counsel, Lisa Zornberg, stepped down. This week, the school's chancellor, David Banks, announced plans to retire at the end of the year. Banks had also turned over his phone to federal authorities. Banks's younger brothers, Philip, the deputy mayor for public safety, and Terrence, also had their phones seized. David Banks's fiancée, Sheena Wright, the first deputy mayor, had her phone seized as well. Adams has said that as a former police officer, he has always followed the rules. You know, he should do Stand Up with Max.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
He has also said he has known of no misdoings within his administration. He has repeatedly said he wasn't aware of any wrongdoing, dismissing speculation that he would face charges as rumors and innuendo, and vowing as recently as Wednesday afternoon to stay in office. Quote, "The people of this city elected me to fight for them, and I will stay and fight no matter what," Adams said. The federal investigations into his administration first emerged publicly on November 2nd, 2023, when FBI agents conducted an early morning raid on the Brooklyn home of Adams's chief fundraiser, Brianna Suggs. At the time, Adams insisted he followed the law and said he would be shocked if anyone on his campaign had acted illegally. I cannot tell you how much I start the day with telling my team we've got to follow the law, he told reporters at the time.
I begin every briefing. Now remember, no crimes today.
No crimes. It's not like back when we were hanging with Suge Knight.
Right, exactly. Yeah. This is New York City. Everything's on the up and up here. No, New York cops are known to play by the rules.
They're known for it. They're known for it. Not like they shot Serpico in the face or anything.
Right.
Days later, FBI agents seized the mayor's phones and iPad as he was leaving an event in Manhattan. The interaction was disclosed several days later by the mayor's attorney. Other investigations have focused on city contracts and enforcement of regulations governing bars and clubs. Adams is not expected to appear in court until next week, according to sources. Okay, so yeah, Eric Adams is a consummate scumbag. He's actually, I have long contended that New York, if the Republicans changed their position on abortion, would be deep red overnight. Eric Adams is a Republican. He's a Republican. He switched his party affiliation because post-Trump, you really cannot get elected mayor in New York as a Republican. But remember, New York gave the nation the gift of Rudy Giuliani. This is not a liberal town except in the cultural sense. Wall Street is in New York. Eric Adams is a perfect example of somebody who uses, in a very transparent way, racial politics to defend corporatism. For example, he tried to make an argument against the rent stabilization and rent control that makes, your rent got tripled in 1 month and now you're homeless, a very rare story in New York City. He tried to argue that it impacts black landlords.
Right.
Black landlords make up something like 1% or something of the total landlords. But he tried to turn that into a race issue in the most ham-handed deployment of identity politics on behalf of the corporate state you can imagine. That's who this scumbag is. And he's a landlord himself, by the way.
Yeah, and look at New York City. You know, this is just one other microcosm of what I've been saying now for 5 years. I don't really say it much anymore because we've them exited now, so it's not our fight anymore. But look at these Democrat primary voters, who they vote for. Look at who they pick. Look at New York City. New York City is the capital of the world. You have some of the smartest, most talented people in the world in New York City, and look at the clowns they elect to lead New York City. Eric Adams, Bill de Blasio, Rudy Giuliani. The only one who actually makes some modicum of sense, actually, is Michael Bloomberg. Michael Bloomberg is a pro-choice Republican who worships money. That is the ethos of New York City.
Yes.
It makes perfect sense that they would elect him. That makes logical sense because that's who the sort of power voters in New York actually are. These others, they're clowns. They're jokes.
If you want to see the politics of New York City at its core, at its bottom, look at Michael Bloomberg.
Yeah.
Michael Bloomberg is New York, just like Nancy Pelosi is Silicon Valley.
Right. Exactly. So that actually makes some sense. Horrible, but it makes sense. But these other guys, I mean, they are absolute clowns. It just goes to show you. Maybe
well,
it's
they
just
were
like
the furthest right people in the primary, which again goes back to this point. They're Republicans. They're essentially Republicans. These are the people who get misty-eyed about Dick Cheney endorsing Kamala Harris. That's who these people are.
Yep. And de Blasio, you think de Blasio is a clown. De Blasio only won because Anthony Weiner had another sex scandal blow up in his face. They would have elected Anthony Weiner mayor. They would have made him the mayor if that didn't blow up at the time it did.
Sure.
So, I mean,
absolutely.
it's unbelievable. It's
yeah,
unbelievable.
he was on a glide path to becoming.
Oh yeah, he was way up. He was way up. I think the other one, the lesbian Christine Quinn,
right.
She was like 10 points behind. And the reason why the reason why it defected to de Blasio and not Quinn is because Quinn and Weiner really ran a very nasty campaign against each other. So there's no way, once Weiner imploded, there's no way his voters were going to go for her. So they went for the next candidate down, which was Bill de Blasio. So he basically became mayor by accident. They would have had someone even more ridiculous than him if not for that scandal at the last minute. Maybe it's just that politicians in general are just not the best of society. Because you think about it, look at the mediocre caliber of person. I mean, look at who's running for president now. Look at Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Donald Trump. I mean, we're not sending our best, folks. We're not sending our best.
We're not sending our best. Say that. I must say, though, you never forget your first. And the very first politician I ran up to with a camera on behalf of Due Dissidents was Eric Adams.
That's right. That's right.
I happened to see him walking into City Hall, and I asked him about his policy of defending solitary confinement, and he lied about his position.
Yeah,
shocking.
He said he didn't, and then we looked it up, and what did he call it?
Punitive isolation.
Punitive isolation. That's
he
right.
has a phrase that literally means exactly the same thing.
Yeah, some Orwellian phrase. I think that was it. I think it was punitive isolation. Yeah, absolutely. All right, folks. We will move on down the line here. We got some more Rumble rants and super chats here. Zionism is very antithetical to Judaism. True Jews rock. Zionists suck. I don't hate Zionists. I just hate many of their deeds. Thank you, Ken Texican. Appreciate that. El Casador, thanks for the $2. Max is the man. 2028 to the max for president. VP Keaton the wise, and Russell will rise from his throne to become the new global deity. Thank you, El Casador. You're on a roll today. Appreciate that. Kenman G, I maintain hope by seeing the election as a giant bum fight. Bum fights are aspirational. Thank you.
Yeah.
You hear my dog probably singing?
Trying to win that stack of cash.
Yeah, there you go. Keaton is lower than Russ because of the cold-induced baritone. Yeah, I did recatch the cold, indeed.
Yeah,
Keaton, you need to lubricate that throat.
Dog.
Dee Dee has a stash. Yeah, she's such a maniac.
Freaking out back there.
She's the most neurotic animal I've ever met.
Really?
No, it's because Amanda went to pick the kids up from the bus stop, but she doesn't know I'm here. And so she freaks out. She likes to be in her crate when nobody else is home. If she's in the house with nothing to do and no person around, she goes nuts, and she thinks there's no person around now. All right. Oops, what did I do here? Julia MR, thank you for the $2. What happened here? There we go. The rally in Kingston was moved to 2 p.m., I believe. No, I didn't see that. I will make a note of that, though. Thank you, Julia. Appreciate that. That'd be good information to know. Peter version 1, thanks to the $4.99. Knows Gray Zone's Max Blumenthal and Mate are the road warriors of journalism. Mad Max Blumenthal and Aaron Buzzsaw Mate. DD, you are Miami Vice. Thank you. Peter version 1, thank you. B-Man, thanks for the $5. Bush Jr. bombed Iraq as a pretext of Saddam threatening H.W. Bush. Derek P., thanks for the $5. Adam Curtis doc showed Jane Fonda protesting the Vietnam War to selling 30-minute workout videos. Many people are now the same. They have given up. Thank you, Derek P. Insubordinate academic, I guess. Damn, I came in late again. Have we established between Trump and Harris who hates Palestinians more? Thank you. Pete Sweet, thanks for the $10. As an expat living in Bali for the past 5 years that meditates and practices deep breathing exercises, this shit is going on in the world right now will make anyone lose their zen. You're not kidding. Thank you, Pete Sweet. Kuznetsky Bassane, thanks for the $4.99. Bureaucratic genocidist Blinken. Yes. Chirpy, thanks for the $4.99. What are your thoughts on Whitney Webb, and would you have her on your show? She's definitely a dissident. Yeah, we're trying. I think you messaged us about that earlier. But yeah, we're trying. We're working on it. We're working on it. Yeah, we'd love to have her on. Absolutely.
Yeah, but a lot of the things that I'm researching right now are in her wheelhouse, so that's why.
Yeah. Tom, thanks for the $4.99. Nothing will happen to Blinken. Everyone in the government is owned by the AIPAC lobby. Thank you, Tom. Sparky, thanks for the $10. A good thing to ask oneself, if the news feeds scroll through aren't CIA cold or curated, why doesn't Judge Napolitano's show or even clips of his show ever show up in those feeds? Didn't they zap his channel temporarily and then they gave it back to him? I'm pretty sure that happened. I think so. I think that did happen. I know he's on Rumble now. Mohammed Zakar, and on YouTube. He got it back, but I think they took it down for a little while. I think they gave him a little scare. Mohammed Zagari, thanks for the $4.99. We Palestinians love you guys. Well, thank you. That means a lot.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
That, man.
Thank you very much.
Cool Blue 71, thanks for the $4.99. Weather Underground members Diana Outen, Terry Robbins, and Theodore Gold were killed in the March 6, 1970 explosion in a Greenwich Village townhouse. That's right. It's still there. And it has this weird shape because they had to rebuild the building in this weird way.
I had to rebuild it. I'm going to get into the whole story. I got pictures.
Yep.
It's a good time.
It'll be a fun time, fun tour. Okay. Let's, hey, it's the morning. You know what the morning is good for? 1775 coffee. Let's teach you guys a little bit about that before we continue.
This place actually has an actual coffee maker.
There you go. Well,
Kudos
you should get
to
some
Airbnb.
Some 1775 coffee. Do
Yeah.
you enjoy? Do you
That's
enjoy
the only thing it doesn't have.
Yeah, it only doesn't have 1775 coffee. That's right. Do you enjoy the free speech that Rumble is protecting and fighting for? Our show on Rumble is only possible thanks to our viewers supporting Rumble's platform by purchasing Rumble's products. So most of you drink coffee every day. That's why you got to try Rumble 1775 coffee. It's great coffee, and it's the same price as the coffee you already buy now, but it's way better. Rumble 1775 coffee is free from chemicals and rich in flavor. This is because their beans are sourced from high-altitude farms in Bolivia, hand-picked, roasted weekly at their facility in Miami, and delivered fresh to your doorstep. And as believers in freedom...
I think it's the child labor.
Yeah, I don't believe so. And as believers in freedom, buying from Rumble helps fight back against woke corporations like Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts. Join Coffee Revolution and Brew Rebellion from Rumble's 1775 Coffee. Go to 1775coffee.com, use code STUDIO, and get a free month supply of their cognitive boosting supplement Limitless when you buy 2 bags of coffee. That's a crazy deal. The supplement's worth more than the 2 bags themselves, so go to 1775coffee.com and try their amazing coffee. It comes in 16-ounce bags, so you actually get more bang for the buck than the standard 10-ounce bags that you get at the grocery store. So that's 1775coffee.com, coupon code STUDIO. All right, there we go. Wonderful. Okay. We will move right on down the line here. Let's go to Kamala's interview last night. So Kamala Harris sat down for an interview last night with Stephanie Ruhle. This was announced by MSNBC yesterday morning. Just announced VP Harris will join host Stephanie Ruhle in Pittsburgh for her first one-on-one network interview since becoming the Democratic presidential nominee. Watch the full interview tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern on MSNBC. And so Eric Schmidt realized, hey, Stephanie Ruhle's doing this interview? Stephanie Ruhle said last week that Kamala doesn't need to answer questions about her policy positions. Kamala then swiftly schedules a fake interview with her. At what point will the legacy media demand more, like maybe a press conference? She's running for president. So, yeah, this was Stephanie Ruhle sparring with Never Trump Republican Brett Stevens on last Friday's episode of Real Time with Bill Maher. So just 5 days before the interview, here's Stephanie Ruhle basically saying Kamala Harris shouldn't have to answer questions from the press in order to earn your vote.
Ask Kamala, say, are you for a Palestinian state if Hamas is going to run that state?
Okay.
Yes or no?
And let's say you don't like her answer. Are you going to vote for Donald Trump?
No, I'm not.
Kamala Harris is not running for perfect. She's running against Trump. We have 2 choices. And so there are some things you might not know her answer to. And in 2024, unlike 2016 for a lot of the American people, we know exactly what Trump will do, who he is, and the kind of threat he is to democracy.
I don't know.
So it's unclear to me how there could be an informed...
The problem that a lot of people have with Kamala is we don't know her answer to anything, okay?
But you know his answer to everything.
And that's why I would never vote for him, and people shouldn't vote for him. But people also are expected to have some idea of what the program is of the person you're supposed to vote for. You're just not supposed to say, well, you have to vote for Y because X is this, that, and the other. Let's find out a little bit more. And I don't think it's a lot to ask her to sit down for a real interview as opposed to a puff piece in which she describes like her feelings of growing up in Oakland with nice lawns.
Then I would just say to that, when you move to Nirvana, give me your real estate broker's number and I'll be your next door neighbor. We don't live there.
Okay, so that's who gave Kamala the one-on-one interview just a few days before, being like, yeah, look, it'd be nice if she answered questions, but hey, it's not a perfect world, right? I mean, she's not running for perfect. She's running against Trump. And in Nirvana, where politicians answer every question that they're asked and make themselves available for critical interviews during the last month and a half of a campaign, I'll be your next door neighbor in that utopian paradise that you speak of. So,
well, that is the peasant mind. They want you to think like a peasant. You are not entitled to question your leadership. You are not entitled to demand more from your leadership. The underlying assumption that you are expected to make here is that the system is not responsive to your need for answers. And the idea that Kamala represents a defense of democracy. This is somebody who was such a horrible case, facing a humiliating loss in her home state, where she was running in 4th or 5th place in polls. This is somebody, they whacked out the sitting president who clearly wanted to run again in favor of somebody who is running without a single vote. That is the defense of democracy. You just went mute.
Sorry, just muted myself by accident. Yeah, no, absolutely. And so here is what was, I guess, one of the highlights from the actual interview. I saw several of the clips from this interview. None of them were particularly remarkable because, look, it's a puff piece interview with a friendly reporter, and Kamala's on script, and so it's going to go how it's going to go. This was one of the most viral moments from it, so we'll play this here.
There was
actually that child tax credit, or expanding that child tax credit, or you mentioned housing before, giving that extra money for a first home. If you can't raise corporate taxes, or if GOP takes control of the Senate, where do you get the money to do that? Do you still go forward with those plans and borrow?
Well, but we're going to have to raise corporate taxes, and we're going to have to make sure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. That's just it. It's about paying their fair share. I am not mad at anyone for achieving success, but everyone should pay their fair share. And it is not right that the teachers and the firefighters that I meet every day across our country are paying a higher tax than the richest people in our country.
Bill Gates just said it this week. If he was in charge of taxes, he would have paid more. But how do you find that line to make sure corporations are paying their fair share, but they're not leaving our country?
Well, listen, I work with a lot of CEOs. I have spent a lot of time with CEOs, and I'm going to tell you that the business leaders who are actually part of the engine of America's economy agree that people should pay their fair share. They also agree that when we look at a plan such as mine that is about investing in the middle class, investing in new industries, investing in bringing down costs, invest in entrepreneurs like small businesses, that the overall economy is stronger and everyone benefits.
Okay, so, as you can see there, pretty much a dodge on the question, hey, if the GOP controls the Senate, which I personally don't think is especially likely given some of the polls. And she kind of goes right past that and says, so what Stephanie Rule's basically asking her there is, if you can't raise taxes to pay for the things you want to do, will you do them anyway and run up the national deficit? That's basically what she's asking. By the way, I don't see the point if you're going to dress like you're going to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I don't see the point of doing the interview in this weird wood shop or whatever the fuck it is. Like
they want to show that she's in touch with the working people
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do that, like dress casual, like they're dressed like they belong on a 60 Minutes set, yet here they are in this weird kind of location. So that's what Stephanie Rule's asking her there, and
it's like Prince Hal going out amongst the people.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so Kamala basically says, well, we have to raise taxes. So that's kind of a way of saying, no, we won't do these things unless we can raise the corporate tax rate, but it's a bit of a dodge, as Nicole Wallace asked Stephanie Rule after the interview was over.
Answer.
I do, but here's what's a little tricky. She doesn't answer the question around if the GOP is controlling the Senate, if she can't raise corporate taxes, where is she going to get the money from, to expand the child tax credit and do all the things she wants to do? And she says, we just have to do it. And that's great, and that's a campaign promise. But the issue is, if it means we're just going to borrow again, then what we're doing is we're just never addressing the deficit. And back in the days when you were a proud Republican, debts and deficits mattered.
Back in the days when you were a proud Republican, referring, of course, to Nicole Wallace, who was a proud Republican, George W. Bush's press secretary. By the way, Stephanie Rule's husband, ultra wealthy hedge fund guy. She's the one who said, I busted my butt to get to Park Avenue, right?
Yeah.
So MSNBC, and I've said this about MSNBC, they're really not a liberal network. They are a never Trump Republican network. They are very much a Lincoln Project oriented network, to the point where this was a real sticking point. Hey, deficits and debts used to matter back when you/we in the audience were all proud Republicans, right? And that's very much the target audience, is like disaffected Republicans who are offended by Trump's bad manners. Now, if you thought that
there's not a hair's difference between the politics of Rachel Maddow and the politics of Nicole Wallace. That's why they're famous friends. What is the real difference between their politics?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, zero. And if you thought that was cringe, I had to pull this last minute, because this was Stephanie Rule on Chris Hayes giving another excuse for that non-answer. If you thought that excuse was milquetoast, wait till you hear this one. This is kind of jaw-dropping.
And one could watch that and say, well, she didn't give a clear, direct answer. That's okay, because we are not talking about clear or direct issues.
Play that again.
Work, and one could watch that and say, well, she didn't give a clear, direct answer. That's okay, because we are not talking about clear or direct issues.
Yes, it's okay. She did not give clear, direct answers, because we're not talking about clear and direct issues. Basically, these issues are complicated, and Kamala's not addressing them clearly because there is no clear solution to issues that are so complicated. And if you expect clarity from politicians, it's because you're stupid and you don't understand how complicated the issues are. All of a sudden, by the way, these issues are too complicated to give actual answers on. A few months ago, a few years ago, they were all about being the complete sentences crowd. All about the other side's dumb because they can't answer questions. And now, boom, on a dime, they turn.
Yeah, that I think came from her upcoming book, Zen Cones for Psychopaths.
Yeah.
Now, okay, I did watch the whole interview. I came away from it saying, again, she's probably going to win. She's only doing these softball interviews, which she's very prepared for. Who knows? It would not surprise me if she's given the questions in advance, because the Kamala that we know is never that prepared with an answer.
Right.
She doesn't seem to veer off into word salads. So it would not surprise me if she knows what the questions are going to be. When you look at the condition the American people are in, what Kamala is really promising more than anything else is the devil you know.
Right.
Very, very much like Biden, basic competence, whether that's true to the reality or not. That is the pitch. Basic competence, basic running the government. At least things aren't going to get worse. At least I'm not going to blow everything up. And also something that really runs counter to the kind of narrative you get on channels like MSNBC that want to tell you that the country is made up mostly of deplorable, virulent racists who need to be put in their place. People like the idea of breaking these barriers. It's actually not a detriment. The people who are not going to vote for Kamala Harris because she's a black woman, they're already not voting for Democrats.
Right.
For the people who are available to them, people like to feel virtuous in their vote. It was part of the secret sauce of Barack Obama, which they're never able to answer. Well, if the country is so racist, how did this guy get elected twice? People like to feel like I voted for the first person of this identity. See, I'm not a deplorable. I'm not one of those bad racists. I think that works for her. And I think if you put her next to the consummate old, white, rich heir, Donald Trump, she looks better, I think, to enough people to get her over the line with the kind of campaign Trump is running, which is terrible. Like this interview, yeah, we're watching it and we're saying it has no substance. She doesn't really have to. She seems plausible. She plays as a plausible president.
Right.
She plays as somebody who's going to be able to. This is how low the bar is. Kamala came into this having to clear the bar that she's not going to cackle wildly at every question and launch into, your refrigerator magnet poetry. That she's actually going to be able to plausibly answer questions. Because, hey, who's president right now? We don't have a president. So the job is to be a spokesmodel for the deep state. And she is conveying plausibly that she can do that for 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, all she has to do is not implode, and you're not going to implode when the person giving you the one-on-one interview is the person here just 5 days ago telling an undecided voter, hey, grow up, she doesn't have to be substantive, right? Like, you're not going to have a viral meltdown moment in that forum. And that's what it would take to really tip the race in Trump's favor at that point. Now, when I say tip the race in Trump's favor at that point, understand, we're talking about basically a 50-50 proposition now. I'm not saying Trump needs a miracle to win. Trump could very, very well win. His polling looks pretty strong in the Sun Belt states, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, which means he's just got to crack one of those upper three Midwestern states to win it. Now, will he? We don't know. We don't know. I mean, he's behind in Wisconsin. He's behind in Michigan, not by much, but he is trailing. Pennsylvania is a statistical tie. That's why it's a coin toss right now. The question right now is, what does the electorate look like? Does the electorate look like the rebellion of 2016, or does the electorate look like the exhausted normie turnout of 2022? My gut says it's going to resemble more of the 2022 turnout than the 2016. That's just a gut. I could absolutely be wrong. But that is my gut. And part of what informs that is, yes, the issue that we know drives turnout is the Dobbs issue and the Roe issue. Yep. And so that's why my gut says the turnout's going to look more favorable to Kamala. It could absolutely go the other way. I'm not comfortable predicting definitively either way. But the fact that this is even a question at this point is an indictment of the campaign Trump has won. And the Kamala people are not stupid. Yeah. They got David Plouffe on the team. He was one of the Obama masterminds, very, very smart advisor. They understand that the polls put a generic Democrat above Trump. And so they are running as generic a campaign as possible. And, it's a little sad to see, the MAGA accounts try and make it look like Kamala had a meltdown there. She didn't. Was it a bad interview? Yeah, but it's not disqualifying. And all they're going for is to not be disqualifying. They're saying if we cannot disqualify Kamala between now and November, we got a 50-50 shot.
Right.
Right? And so I think they got a 50-50 shot. I really do.
And if what you're thinking about are normie voters, not terminally online people who watch shows like this, normie voters, that was not a bad interview. That was not a bad interview when you consider what she had to get done in that interview, not melt down, not go into a word salad, and not laugh in a way that makes people hug their children tighter and get under the blankets.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
She did all that. That's all she had to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really starting to feel disdain and contempt for people who are invested in this election. Like people who felt the need to like go out there and really act like she had a meltdown. And then on the other side, people who really went out there and made it look like she killed it. Like, man, if you are in that kind of fight or flight horse race mode, man, there is something seriously wrong with you. Like you really got to have there is a hole you need filling in yourself if you are this invested in this campaign.
I think for a lot of people, remember, man, a lot of people in the country today are in a really, really bad spot. I sent you the other day. I got to watch the rest of this. It's a long fucking documentary. More Perfect Union. They've been dropping some real bangers. I never followed them. I only really discovered them recently. But they did like a 4-hour thing on the death of the American dream that they just dropped. I sent it to you because I'm wondering if the algo is suppressing it, which is kind of weird because there's no lack of videos with that theme on YouTube. But
Right.
relative to their sub count, which is like 1.4 million, after it had been released for 2 days, they only had 21,000 views. It could be the 4-hour length is intimidating people. But, man, it showed this formerly middle class couple where the guy lost his job, they downsized, and the whole family's living in a hotel room. The guy, the wife, the 2 kids, all living in one hotel room. A lot of people are living like that, man. A lot of people are living like that. And they want hope. They want hope. So some of them are looking at Kamala and her economic promises, and they're hoping that's going to improve their situation. Some are looking to Trump, who's promising to, once again, to flip the board and rewrite the rules. I think that's where a lot of that is coming from, man. These people are in a desperate situation. A lot of people in America right now, and they just don't even know where to turn.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think that does explain a good deal of it. Alrighty, folks. Before we go on to our final segment of the day, we want to take this moment to supporters. That's right. You can become a cool kid yourself if you join our supporter community at either Locals, Substack, or Patreon. So the websites are as follows here. There's patreon.com/DoDissidents, DoDissidents.locals.com, and DoDissidents.substack.com. For $5 a month, you get your name up in lights on the Patreon scroll here. You also get call-in access to our post-show Q&As, as well as access to our exclusive supporter streams. That's right, you get bonus live streams and access to special events. When we did our live shows in New York City, we had them there. Russ is going to be live streaming his walking tour of New York. Our arts festival coming up in the spring is going to stream exclusively to supporters. And so you could go to our Patreon, our Substack, or our Locals. The cool thing about Locals is we stream to Locals now, where there's a members-only chat. So that's DoDissidents.locals.com if you want to sign up. If you're watching on Rumble right now, click that bright red join button underneath the video player, and that takes you to our Locals page. Our members are the backbone of the show. You guys are the fuel that keeps us running, and so we could not do this without you. So if you'd like to support the show, we put a bunch of perks in there to sweeten the deal for you. DoDissidents.locals.com for just $5 a month. You get to keep us afloat here. Please and thank you all very, very much for your support. Let's go to some Rumble rants here. JDone97, can't make it to the rally, but I'm here in D.C. How can I get in touch? Info I want to send you guys. DoDissidents@gmail.com. That's the way to do it. That's the way to go. Thank you for that. Goo81, the same Blinken who told Bibi that I am here as a Jew first, America second. Lastly, he has Israeli citizenship, so who is he going to work for, USA or Israel? Mark Pugliese, thanks for the $5. My boys, the email to YouTube connection says video not available, so I have to catch you on Rumble. Is that true? Is there something wrong with one of the links in the newsletter? Is that what you're talking about? Could just be a bum link in there.
Yeah, you're, somebody mentioned it. You're like crackling. Your mic's like crackling.
Crackling?
Yeah, you get like little like crackling, like buzzing.
Interesting.
Sounds like something in the system, in like the wire or something.
In the wire. Let's see. Does it make that now?
You have to keep talking.
Go ahead.
Not
1,
right
2,
at the
3.
moment.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
1,
that seems better.
Okay. All right. Maybe it was just a little kink in the wire there. Alrighty. Let's see here. Mark Pugliese. Oh, that's the link. Maybe one of the links was a bum link. I'm sorry if that happened. It could have just been a typo when I went to copy the link to the newsletter. Honest mistake if that happened. Mayor Adams, it wasn't me at the Diddy freakout party getting pegged. Thank you, Eric Puso. Appreciate that. De Blasio is not entirely clownish. 2 years of no rent increase and minimal raises after universal pre-K. No, that's true. That's true.
It's true.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, he was definitely much better than Adams, much better than Michael Bloomberg or Rudy Giuliani, for sure. How much is YouTube losing by censoring super chats? 30%, right? Do they even care? Talking about a very big corporation there, my friend. Mohammed Zagari, thanks for the $2 on YouTube. Great work, fellas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Correction, due dissonance. Yes, Sparky, we understand. I know you wrote due dissonance on the last super chat. No correction needed. We do know the name of our own show, but thank you for that. In case I mixed dissidence or dissonance or some other similar word, apologies. I'll be more careful. No, as I said on the Jimmy Dore show last time we were on, so many people mistake us for due dissonance that if you search due dissonance on YouTube, we show up anyway.
Yeah.
That's how common that is. So it doesn't really matter.
Well, you know what's funny? I was just watching this. So Nerdrotic just started doing a review series, and they decided to capitalize on the fact that if you put in Nerdrotic to the search engine, so many people have done hit pieces on him that Nerdrotic is toxic is like the third hit. They said, well, why don't we capitalize on the search engine? We'll call the review series Nerdrotic is Toxic. That's smart thinking. So we do a movie series. We should call it Due Dissonance.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yes. Chirpy, thanks for the $4.99. Chirpy says, I've donated 3 different times. Are you not allowed to talk about interviewing Whitney Webb for some reason? We've answered you twice. We've said twice before. We're putting it together. We're trying to get in touch with her.
Yeah. Did you not hear when we answered it the 2 other times?
Yeah, we're not ducking you. We're saying we're working on it. Yes, we want to interview Whitney Webb.
We want to get her on, particularly because right now the focus of my research is COINTELPRO and Silicon Valley techno-feudalism, basically Whitney Webb stuff. So this is, for me, I'm dying to talk to her right now.
Yeah. Is our video feed cutting out? You all right there, Chirpy? We've answered you both times, and now we've answered you a third time. I mean, I appreciate it, but I don't want you to keep throwing money at us thinking we're ducking your question. We answered it. Yes, we're trying. We're trying.
Yes.
Don't worry. All right. Charlie, thanks for the $2. 9/11 was an inside job. Thank you, Charlie. Leprechaun Alley, thanks for $19.99. I can't pull up the tour. Also, duedissidence.com/tour. That should work. That should work. Jake put that together. Also, I live in Huntington on Long Island from South Dakota 17 years ago. I only knowing 2 or 3 Dems in Suffolk. Hubby leans Marxist like me. They wanted George Santos. Yeah, Suffolk County. I mean, that is a pretty red area.
And just to say, for some reason you can't get it that way, if you just go to Eventbrite and look up Weird New York Tour with Russell Dobler, you'll get it. Even Weird New York, nobody else has that. You'll get it.
Sparky, thanks for the $10. A good example of a conservative aspect of NYC was in The Producers from 1960s, where they made fun of a hippie, then more of a West Coast phenomenon, though NYC soon went long hair. Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, I don't agree with your police work there, Sparky. Greenwich Village back then was full of hippies. There was a big hippie scene. Bob Dylan really made his name playing at Cafe Wa on McDougal Street. Jimi Hendrix also really developed his sound playing on that street at a place that today is a Vietnamese restaurant called Saigon Shack. Back then, it was right above the Bowery Poetry Club. If you've ever seen Ms. Maisel, that's where she's playing in that show. So no, there were hippies. There were the beatniks, and then there were the hippies that existed in New York at that time.
Keaton, have you considered getting your dog earbuds to listen to the show? Asked John Freese. Yeah, that's an idea. Thank you, John. Sparky, thanks for the $5. By the way, Zero Mostel was an amazing talent who died way too young. Thank you. Peter Monahan, thanks for the $5. Just wanted to check in and say hi. Can't afford messages anymore. Your show is pretty much the only thing that keeps me going and has me looking forward. Peter, thank you for that. And I did see your emails yesterday. I had not a second to spare yesterday, so I have not had a chance to write you back yet, but I will. So thank you, my friend. Grandpa Caligula, thank you for the $5. If you've ever seen Failsafe, imagine how that scenario would play out today. White House filled with Walter Matthau's character and no one for Fonda's president. Thank you. American Disaster, what's worse, lying about policy or staying mute? Peter Monahan, thanks for the $10. The more money you spend, the more tax you pay. Inversely, the more money that you earn, the more you should have to pay more tax. That's the natural order of the economy I live in. Please clap. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate that. P. Walker, thanks for the $5. What percentage of the interview did Kamala demand cut from the Rule interview? Any bets? 95%, 97%? That's right. It was another pre-recorded interview. My cable subscription expired. I haven't renewed it, so I couldn't actually watch the whole thing. I had to just watch the pieces of it because they didn't publish the whole thing, at least not maybe until like way into the night. Kuznetsky Bassane, thanks for the $4.99. Hedge fund managers and the rich hate the national debt only because it's linked. Inflation is a tax on their compounding wealth. Thank you. Peter Monahan, thanks for the $10. Robbie Burns, thank you for getting through. It'll need 6,000 calories a day getting ready for the big surgery day on the 16th. Going to lose my voice and the ability to swallow, but I'll be alive, hopefully. Yeah, I like I said, Peter, I did see your email, and you know, that is extremely brutal. But you know, our thoughts are with you, man. And like I said, I will write back to you. I do promise. And hang in there. Michael Castillo, thanks for the $10. Russell, I watched Blue Velvet with Dennis Hopper the other night. What is your opinion of it? I never liked that movie. I know you didn't ask me, but I never liked it. I always thought it was just, it's off-putting in its weirdness. It's not weird in a compelling way to me. And, you know, a lot of David Lynch's stuff is. Like, I loved Mulholland Drive. I love that movie. Blue Velvet, I never got into. Russell? I think Russell froze. Yeah, Russell ducked that question. Russell wasn't comfortable. I think you triggered Russell with that question. Maybe his machine turned off. Sparky, thanks for the $5. That's it. Russell quit the show. He's gone. He couldn't handle that Blue Velvet question. There we go.
Don't know what happened there.
Do you like Blue Velvet or not? That was the question.
Oh, that was yeah.
Yeah.
You're so fucking suave, Ben.
Yeah.
Heineken, fuck that shit. Pabst Blue Ribbon.
There you go.
I should put that on the soundboard.
Russell likes it. Yeah, there you go. That would be a good sound drop. Sparky, thanks for the $5. All Kamala needs to achieve is plausible electability. The establishment can take care of the rest if it's even needed, depending on Trump. That's right. SB, thanks for the $5. Should we troll the IDW intellectuals seeing the Save the Republic lineup? It's just a bunch of anti-Iran, Palestine, and China warhawks. The woke right sucks. Russ has that press pass. He's got that press pass. We will see what happens.
Yeah. Listen, where all that's concerned. First of all, so I'm speaking at Rage against the War Machine. And hey, man, that lineup is bad. Jose is speaking, but that's how it was always conceived. You had people attacking it last time. Right. The idea that you should only speak against war with people who agree with you about everything, that's absurd. That's absurd on any subject, I think. Yeah, you most want to reach people who don't agree with you. Did anyone have a problem when back in days when we liked him, when Bernie went on Fox? Everyone thought that was great. Right? Nobody said he shouldn't go on Fox. So speaking at Rage Against the War Machine, to me, that's a no-brainer. in terms of the Rescue the Republic, I'm there as press, and same deal. I'll cover anything.
There you go. That'll be it's going to be a fun time. Okay. We got one more segment to do, then we will take the rest of your super chats and Rumble rants. All right, folks. So we're going to end with a bit of a sequel segment to one that we covered on our last show. So to catch you up, folks, we did a more thorough piece on the Rashida Tlaib smears, where she was said to have made an anti-Semitic remark about the Michigan Attorney General because she cracked down on pro-Palestine campus protesters more than she did on, say, BLM or Extinction Rebellion protesters. She said nothing of the sort. It was a complete fabrication, as we will rehash briefly here, where we see the original segment where Dana Bash tosses to Jake Tapper making this drive-by lie about Rashida Tlaib.
To a sad reality, and now to a sad reality, and that is anti-Semitism is everywhere, and it comes from both ends of the political spectrum. But politicians sometimes sidestep calling it out when it comes from a member of their own party. We saw two examples on State of the Union yesterday. First, with Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, when my co-anchor Jake Tapper asked about a Democratic Congresswoman's accusation that the state's Jewish Attorney General was letting her religion influence her job.
Do you think that Tlaib's suggestion that Nessel's office is biased was anti-Semitic?
Okay, so that pretty much catches you up. She made no such suggestion whatsoever. And they were called out about that by enough people to the point where now Dana Bash tweets out a clarification on this story we brought you yesterday. Not a retraction, not a correction, not an apology, a clarification. So let's hear what this clarification is.
On a story we brought you, clarification on a story we brought you yesterday concerning Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib's comments attacking a decision by Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel to bring charges against pro-Palestinian protesters at the University of Michigan. Tlaib accused Nessel of, quote, biases. Here's Tlaib's full quote to the Detroit Metro Times. It seems that the Attorney General decided if the issue was Palestine, she was going to treat it differently. And that alone speaks volumes about possible biases within the agency she runs. Now, Tlaib did not reference Nessel's Jewish identity. Her office has not responded to our request for clarity. Her allies insist that's not what she meant. But Nessel still says she believes it is anti-Semitic and repeated on CNN yesterday that, quote, clearly she's referencing my religion.
Some clarification. We're going to show you the quote where there is absolutely no reference. Not only is there no reference to Nessel's religion, there's not even really much reference to Nessel herself. Tlaib doesn't even say Nessel's biases are exposed. She says it speaks volumes about possible biases within the agency she runs. She's not even talking, she's not even calling her out personally in a very direct way. She's saying this reflects biases within the agency. So they put the quote on the screen showing that no good faith interpretation of that is that she meant because she's Jewish, she's cracking down on pro-Palestine protesters. But then Dana Bash, despite 30 seconds ago saying we have a clarification issue, doubles down and say, hey, Nessel maintains that this was an anti-Semitic comment. So then why issue the clarification at all? It sounds like you're drawing the same conclusion. I mean, why even go out of your way to issue that quote-unquote clarification? It's not a clarification at all. You just repeated the original lie and gave that the final word. I mean, and then these people will sit around crying that the public doesn't trust them anymore. Oh, we were demonized as the media. Oh, there's misinformation, blah, blah, blah.
Well, that's the purpose of a fall retraction like that. They want to have it both ways.
Exactly.
They want to be able to tell their viewers, no, see, we call balls and strikes.
Right.
And we issued a clarification while at the same time reinforcing the message within the so-called clarification. Nick did a tweet that got around a picture of Dana Bash saying, Zionists will look at you with a straight face and tell you this person is indigenous to the Middle East.
Right.
The whole thing is just so absurd. And the idea that she's if CNN were a real news network, she wouldn't be allowed to cover these stories. She would just be completely taken off the Israel Zionism beat because she so clearly has a dog in the fight.
Right. Right. Yeah. No. And look, as a quote unquote reputable news agency, don't you have some responsibility to call out what is obviously a bad faith criticism of anti-Semitism? Like, don't you have a responsibility to say, hey, Nestle maintains it was anti-Semitic, but as we just showed you, they put the actual quote on the screen, which they didn't do the first time, which is, that's what Kyle did with the Marianne thing. Oh, we're going to describe this thing that was said without showing you. That should be a red flag. Now they actually put the quote on the screen and then say, despite the fact that we just showed you, there's no hint of anti-Semitism here, the AG still thinks it was anti-Semitic, and that's all the time we have today. That was our clarification. See you tomorrow. I mean, just unbelievable.
Well, and also just showing that paragraph, because in the previous paragraph, she really lays out the case, naming other campus protests that did not bring any kind of an indictment.
Exactly. So just thought we would do a little follow-up as our final piece of the day. We will now read our final Super Chats and Rumble Rants before we close the lights on today's stream, and then we will see you back here throughout the weekend. Really, follow us on Twitter. We'll be dropping some video clips of all of our coverage this weekend. I'm going to be in Kingston. Russ is going to be in D.C., obviously, for 2 rallies. Kit Cabello, our friend, is going to be co-hosting with me on Sunday night because Russ will be probably still at the rally / after party. One kind of bleeds right into the other. So maybe Russ will call in.
I will try to call in.
Yeah, maybe Russ will call in from there. But Kit will be in the co-host chair on Sunday. And stay tuned to Twitter. We will be dropping clips throughout the weekend. Victor Popoff, thanks for the $4.99. Appreciate that. Dominic Morrow, thanks for the $1.99. Your favorite Peter Sellers movie? I mean, for me, it's got to be Dr. Strangelove.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's
I was never a Pink Panther fan. It was too slapstick for me.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, even if I was a Pink Panther fan, I'd have to put Dr. Strangelove number 1.
Sure.
All right, Anthony Ringette, thanks for the $5. I like this one. No, but guys, we're gonna need to know about the Whitney Webb situation. Come on, stop ducking us.
Yeah.
Sam as I am, thanks for the $10. Russell, add 131 Prince Street to the tour. It was SDS National Office where I once printed posters for a college protest. We learned it was an Intel honeypot. Now $2 to $4 million condos. Viva la devolution. Prepare. Thank you. All right, I didn't know that.
That's interesting. It's too far away from
it's a little far
where the main tour is going to be, but that's interesting.
A little off the beaten path. Sparky, thanks for the $10, says, I considered the folk scene and beatnik scene in the village a precursor to the hippie thing rather than hippie.
No. It evolved into the hippie thing.
That's what he said, right? As a precursor to the hippie thing rather than hippie.
Yeah, but he's saying the hippie thing didn't happen there. It did.
At any rate, the hippie thing
it was a New York form of it, sure. It was always considered a little more intellectual, a little more, New York than the West Coast thing. Yeah, it wasn't like the minivan microbus thing. But no, I mean, the tie-dyes, the long hairs, all that. Yeah, you had that in the village back then.
All righty. Well, that appears to be it for the show today. We thank you all very much for being here. Appreciate seeing you all. We hope to see you throughout the weekend. If you're in DC or you're in upstate New York, I'll be attending the Occupy Peace and Freedom rally as audience/press, and Russ will be speaking at Rage Against War and then press at Rescue the Republic. So full weekend of stuff. Going to be a lot going on these next few days, and then we'll see you back here on the main channel with our friend Kit Cabello Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. We thank you all very much for being here.
I just want to say before we close the lights, some people are strongly protesting. No, you didn't have hippies in New York. Let me prove it to you. I'm doing a tour called Weird New York that actually covers some of that history, and you can sign up for it at Eventbrite.
There you go. And Sparky says, admit it, you're dodging Whitney Webb because she's a woman. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sparky. All righty, everybody. We appreciate you all very much. We will see you back here 7 p.m. Sunday nights. Until then, thanks for joining us this morning. Thanks to our YouTubers. Thanks to our Rumblers. Thanks to our special guest, Max Blumenthal. Always great to talk to him. We'll see you all throughout the weekend and back here on the main channel Sunday night. Until then, be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.